Testing. Testing. Oh no, I coughed. Hello. Hello. Testing. Okay, there we go. I know
As soon as
I know playing videos in the background is like something I shouldn't do because of ads and my computer, but I'm going to
I
do it
wake up,
anyways.
like,
It's like the video is called became the how iDubbbz became the biggest became the internet's biggest lolcow by Lanza. I would say he's far from the biggest though. I mean, but he still made quite a fool of himself in the past few years. So, what is the goal of this streamy stream? We gotta we gotta bring back
I'm
Minnesota.
just angry, and
That's what this is about.
I don't know how to stop being like. The only thing I can do is just distract myself with like League of Legends or
Hello,
doing
whoever's
shit
watching.
like.
In Discord leaks dated October 8th, 2016, just a few days after TwitchCon, Anissa would say to her fans she broke up with Acadian, meaning that he was still pretty upset from the breakup, hence the Twitter post and vlog. In fact, it seemed to go pretty bad on his end as he would end up blocking her on Twitter after a fan told her how he admitted to doing so on stream. However, just a couple posts before on Discord, Anissa would mention something about showing interest in iDubbbz himself, and it just so happens that the very day she broke up with Acadian that she would get with iDubbbz. As on October 8th, 2017, a year later, she'd make an Instagram post saying that it was their first year anniversary for her fans to see. What's more notable is that in a January 2017 vlog, Anissa very heavily implied she already had a thing for iDubbbz as well to further prove that point, saying how she accidentally booked an extra day in a hotel and just so happened to go out with Ian that very same night after hitting him up in DMs, with the most notable part being the way she explains how she felt when she thought she blew her chance at getting with him.
And without much warning at all or anything, Ian just takes his key and puts it in the ignition, and I took that as, okay, I'm done conversing with you, I'm done talking to you, I'm gonna take you
I was
back
able to make
now.
vegetable soup.
And
it's
in my
very
head,
good.
for some reason, I went, holy shit, he doesn't like me. So I started like panicking, and I started like word vomiting, and it got really awkward really fast because I was just
have
like
this copper armor
sputtering
in case I
whatever was
die.
coming to my mind. And he started to take that as I wasn't interested in him.
Smithing table.
So we just had this really awkward car ride to the hotel, where when we pulled up to the hotel, we just had this kind of like
Dirt
awkward,
is
let's
actually
hug it
kind
out
of
thing.
rare
And then I
underground
left.
here.
As soon as I left the
And
Jeep,
it's
I was
used for
thinking to myself,
farming, of course.
this
so.
human is never interacting with me again. I f***ed it. Like, this is over.
Excuse me.
And I guess he was thinking the same thing. He thought that I didn't like him and he f***ed it up. So when he got home,
Oh man, I cannot like
I guess he was fighting with himself whether to
pink
text me or
salt
not because he
enough.
thought that it was like completely done. But he decided to message me anyways, and he said, hey, I made it home safe. And the amount of relief that I was like, holy shit, this human is still talking to me. It was unbelievable. We didn't stop talking.
Hello viewer.
That whole night we talked until we fell asleep.
Okay, so the goal of this stream is to find a
pretty
warden.
much inseparable.
What makes it weird is that TwitchCon
name
ended
it
on October 2nd.
Minnesota.
She met up with Ian for the very first time the very next day on the 3rd,
find the
and she
name
dumped
tag,
Acadian
though.
on the 8th and got with Ian later that same
I
day.
think I know where it is.
It's pretty obvious she had a thing for iDubbbz, and when she got the opportunity to get with him, she took it. Hence, immediately getting with him the very same day she dumped Acadian, and it made sense why iDubbbz immediately
Yikes.
got with her as he never had a girlfriend before, and so after
Lol.
seeing this attractive woman clearly wanting to get with him, he obviously said yes, as that would be stupid to turn down. However, despite dating iDubbbz, Anissa continued to thirst over Chris online, such as in March 2017 where she jokes about leaving her kiss mark on a napkin when they met up together, or in May a few months later where she jokes about how he red-pilled and is dating fellow political content creator Lacey Green because of his hot body. These posts have since been deleted, adding to the notion they might have not just been jokes from her. And the notions only get stronger as there's this one vlog she uploaded in June that same year where she flew all the way to New York alone just to hang out with Chris, with Ian nowhere to be seen.
Chris? I found a Chris. Did you get uglier?
Wow.
Yeah, we gotta like make the tree farm bigger.
It's delicious. It's refreshing.
That's another possible goal for this stream.
Ow!
Also, I want to test this Minomite.
So pretty soon we're gonna be going to John.
I need
the night, sleeping the night.
iron
and Chris is
ingot.
filming in the morning. Right now we're
Flint.
just walking around Times Square aimlessly.
Everywhere
No
we
heavy
go, Chris either
doing.
gets pink lemonade or a Snapple. I'm starting to see it.
Dog, that
I
is.
like lemonade. I like lemon. I like lemon.
I think you like men.
You fucking kidding me?
Alright, whatever.
Freaking out on the side of the road.
We'll just,
How's it going?
You do look homeless right now.
You alright?
Yeah.
Your hair doesn't help.
I'm sorry I'm taking so long. Another irony pickaxe. Not bringing
Again,
too
I
much
don't have to
resources
point out
with
here
me
she
'cause
clearly
there's
has a thing
big
for
chance of me
Chris.
dying.
I just find it funny that iDubbbz' own girl left him alone to go visit a guy she clearly likes in some capacity, as it makes him out to look like a cock. Also, before we move on from all this relationship stuff, I'd like to point out one thing in particular. There have been rumors that Anissa was dating Acadian when he was 17 and she was 23. That would be
Yikes.
pretty insane if true, but it turns out he was born in December 1996 and their relationship started in September 2015, meaning that she was 22 and he was 18 when they started dating, as Anissa was
Oh.
born in June 1993.
That's
I know
not
that
bad.
rumor has been going around for a hot minute, as
Not
it was
too
actually
bad.
the first thing I ever heard about her beyond just being iDubbbz' wife. But yeah, she ain't a creep unlike what the rumors have said. I also found out when researching this part that Anissa got back into booby streaming in fall 2016, and she would admit so in the comments on YouTube, saying that she just enjoys it more and was totally making more money beforehand. But it would turn out she actually stopped booby streaming initially because Acadian was more conservative in nature and she was trying to appease her boyfriend, as she admitted so in August, just 2 months before breaking up with him. This wishy-washy and
Alright,
skeevy way
people.
going about how
So
she
the
talks and
journey
portrays herself
the journey
online is a
begins.
very notable thing about her. And now that she was with iDubbbz,
Oh.
she'd find herself on people's radar a lot more often come 2017 and 2018, and in turn a lot more people will
Oh.
become aware of her habit of saying a lot of stupid shit, to put it bluntly. It starts off pretty tame at first, like how Anissa was talking shit about her friend Sky Williams on streams, and how when he found out he started crying to her in DMs, with their friendship ending soon after for obvious reasons.
Literal, I'm sobbing to her.
I'm better
Oh,
react
dude,
to
I
this
love
head on.
this.
I want to be better,
Oh.
so I constantly ask for help.
I
and I'm
freaking
going
love
to be
this
better.
room. He did
But
a good job.
I give a shit that Sky is such
This
a
is derp.
fucking
Derp's room.
manipulative piece of shit that he just.
I know, it's very bottom tier
chat.
internet drama, but I wanted to start with the most bare bones of all, because it is kind of mean to
No
talk
viewers,
shit about
that's
your friend
okay.
publicly like that and pretend y'all were never friends to begin with, even if I and many
Hello.
other people don't really give a shit, given we're not parasocial freaks about all this. However, whenever Chris would bring up Lacey Green or she somehow became part of the convo, Anissa would start to sound rather annoyed and spiteful when referring to her.
Excuse me. I
Are you
remember
still going to New York to that concert?
Avengers Found.
Are you sure you
Don't
haven't
change-
canceled
don't
it?
change the-
Are you sure you haven't
Christina,
canceled it because you found the love of your life?
What
You
the
found
heck?
the Pocahontas to your John Smith?
Avengers
You
found
wanna
a
understand
scope
her
biome
land
somewhere.
and her ways.
I gotta find it.
Saying.
You want to understand her land and her ways? Like she's your Pocahontas.
No, but it'd still be in a row.
Fine, we'll get your girlfriend on here.
I know I'm probably looking a little too deep into all this, but still, knowing that she has a thing for Chris and is slyly talking shit about his girlfriend, it just feels a bit odd to me. There was
Oh,
also
no.
this one time where
Sixes.
Anissa was streaming herself
Cole.
defending someone named Momokun, a
Oh,
cosplayer who
sweet.
was in some heat
Cole,
for sexually
deep
harassing other cosplayers and blaming it on her ADHD, in which she doesn't really defend her but kind of downplays what she was doing, saying how she seems to get a lot of unnecessary hate. However, there is something far more interesting that happens minutes later, as when given an example of someone who gets unnecessarily hated
This
on,
guy has a
she will
weird
go on to
speech
name
pattern.
none other than Lion Maker, a convicted pedophile who posted a 15-year-old girl's nudes on Twitter after people
Oh,
found out he
no.
was a freak back in 2015.
No matter like how serious
No.
it is, right? Like even when Lion
Screw
Maker,
you, Lion
whatever his
Maker.
name was accused of pedophilia, like it gave me a lot of anxiety because I feel like a lot of it is based on a lot of fiction and not a lot of fact. And like if the person really isn't as bad as what people think it is,
Bruh.
which most of the time they're not, then you're just watching people rip apart somebody that maybe doesn't deserve it as much as like I don't know. It's just sad seeing somebody get ripped apart that hard.
Well, Lion Maker
Yeah.
went to jail for
Yeah.
pedophilia. I urge everyone to check out Colossal is Crazy's interview with Lion Maker. It's surreal.
Yeah, I mean, and he went to jail, and he deserved to go to jail, like, which is whatever. But I mean, I'm just trying to
Man,
use
I
the
hate
example of
these,
like when it was
the
before he got
nuggets that
prosecuted and
Spelunky gives
whatever.
us.
People ripping him apart, like we didn't know, like actually know. Right? That's what I'm trying to say.
People did already know this, by the way. He already posted the girl's nudes online and had an interview with YouTuber Colossal is Crazy where he admitted to it, so this example wasn't exactly a good one given this context. Obviously, this is an extremely bad look, but I don't think she was trying to defend a pedo here. I just think she was being extremely stupid using a very bad example of internet dogpiling. Where things get more interesting, however, is Anissa's little beef with Zoe Berger. For those of you that don't know who Zoe Berger is, she was one of the original internet hosts back in the mid-2010s who would show off her body in skimpy outfits and streaming games like Call of Duty while twerking and such before it was mainstream to do. Put it simply, Zoe was a pioneer in internet thottery and arguably made hoeing yourself out online a viable career option back before it was even a mainstream thing. Now, we already know that Anissa was an internet hoe herself, albeit not on the same level as Zoe, as she was just wearing push-up bras and writing her subscribers' name on her boobs and body and such. But knowing how big of a market that Zoe opened up, she wanted to get in on that herself to make more money. In fact, she was originally invited by Zoe herself to join in on making a video twerking on YouTuber Scarce for a quick skit and was all game for it, only for her to turn it down for some reason. However, later on after all this, Anissa would start to call Zoe and her friends the Hose Squad and say she never wanted to join them, but people then find tweets she made replying to Zoe clearly hinting that she wanted to join them. Zoe would catch wind of this line in snakiness and shit-talking, in which she would make a response video spilling all the behind-the-scenes details when dealing with Anissa.
3 oars in the same
join
pocket.
Zoe's Hose
That's
Squad?
crazy.
No, I never wanted to. I never
I don't
wanted
need
to
slime
join
balls right
Zoe's Hose Squad.
You were supposed to come and hang out with me and Celestia. After you begged Celestia, I have the Skype screenshots. You begged her to come hang out with me. I didn't know her or you, but she pulled you a favor so that you could come hang out with us. I said yes because why not? The more the merrier. You back out.
I want this to explode.
iDubbbz tells you it's a bad idea to associate with me.
I discriminate
then
against
you
Deep
proceed
Sleep.
to go on for the next couple of weeks and tweet about me every now and then, talking crap. I don't know if you're trying to provoke me or if you just honestly believe all the things you're saying, because if you tried to provoke me, you did it. Congratulations, it worked. I'm making a video Keemstar style at your
Ooh, I
house.
see cobbled deep slate. That means
You
something was
listened to
blocked
iDubbbz
off.
advice over the bond
Or not.
friendship that you had with Celestia, and eventually regretted that because just a week later you posted a parody
sounds
video
funny.
of the
Like, this
Scarce
doesn't
video
sound
you were
serious at
supposed
all.
to
Like,
be
it's-
in if you had not been a
I can't
flake.
take it seriously.
Now, you know, there's no problems there, but then you start coming at me about how I don't change my bras or something, like that's even relevant. Why don't we talk about something that's completely irrelevant to you? How about we talk about why your boyfriend won't promote anything about you? Is he trying to keep your ass a secret? Why? Is he one of the biggest YouTubers and he can't help your ass out?
Oh.
I think you picked the wrong side. You should have come and hung out and facilitated.
Dude,
making
Zoe is
friends,
roasting the
but
heck out of her.
instead, you decided to be a snake.
Shout out to Zoe,
For more
even though she's
you
scary.
can't perceive celebrity and fail.
The Skype messages between Celestia Vega and Anissa definitely show she was interested in joining them on the Scarce video. And though they're a little hard to read given how old the screenshots are, you can see that Celestia was trying to get Anissa in on it and she was clearly interested before
Is this
backing
like
down.
a
That
basalt
Scarce
cave?
parody that Zoe mentioned seems to be lost to time, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
much as Anissa make a response to Zoe
thought it
a
was
few
a
weeks
geode
later
at
and call
first,
her
but
out for trying to make a gamer girl team composed of women who only look hot rather than their actual skill, something that she's admitted is her goal in the past.
You're just as bad as everybody else when you're talking about giving women equal rights in esports, but they have to look a certain way.
Let's say that there's a very overweight, unattractive female. All right, let's say she's
Who's just amazing at COD.
amazing at COD, right? Would she end up on your team or
Oh
no?
no, it's the cave dwelling
She has no
middle.
place on the team, unfortunately.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Now, Anissa does got a point here, but it's clear this is her just trying to get back at Zoe for exposing how iDubbbz kept her from joining the Scarce video skit because he knew it was bad publicity and would make him look bad, and Anissa making fun of them for being hoes is just the icing on top of the cake here. Like, sure, Zoe and her host squad were hoeing out a lot more than Anissa, but Anissa was still a hoe herself, so it was just a funny hypocrisy moment going on at the end of the day here. Now, y'all saw that Discord message of her talking shit about someone in that last image. And remember how I mentioned earlier that Anissa has a bad habit of saying private and embarrassing stuff about people she knows? Well, that leak was part of more leaks from her Discord server saying that embarrassing and private stuff. Such as how iDubbbz never cleans his room and that his room over at his parents' house smelled like trash. Now he peed on her leg when the two were showering together one night. She even leaked how about a year into their relationship they almost broke up because she feels he wasn't being active much in her life despite the two of them dating and always got caught up with work. Honestly, this is some of the tamest stuff to read, but the fact she's saying these embarrassing things and venting about her relationship issues with a very influential YouTuber to a bunch of random people online is bizarre. This is like textbook celebrity 101 stuff to not talk about publicly, and the fact she was doing this to someone who at the time was untouchable in terms of getting into controversy was completely unexpected from the iDubbbz camp entirely. Now, despite a lot of this stuff not really getting the attention of mainstream internet figures at the time, Anissa was most certainly a Hall of Famer on the gossip site lolcow.farm, with her having a total of 16 threads so far, with the 16th actually being locked almost 6 years ago as of this video in February 2020 because people just kept talking about her that much on the site since getting with iDubbbz back in 2016. She was not seen in a good light by a lot of people online, but not the majority yet, and she had been able to stay out of controversy thanks to her boyfriend being a very influential YouTuber who nobody wanted to offend in fear of cutting off a vital networking connection, and most of the stuff going down being rather petty in nature. In fact, when Brittany Venti made the first comprehensive video on her back in December 2018, it wouldn't really do much to change public opinion about her at the time, but it was the first crack in the armor she gained since she started dating Ian. It's worth noting that Anissa seemed to have stopped the booby streaming stuff again after being with iDubbbz for a while, with her mostly dressing just nice overall. However, there were still some old things about her going about, such as this one time on stream talking about how food is so expensive to buy and how she's been trying to eat more like a vegan to save money, as if she wasn't dating a YouTuber who definitely had more than a couple thousand in the bank.
Also, I haven't eaten in a long time.
She hasn't eaten in a long time.
I don't have money. Okay? Like, I have no income. So, I don't want you guys to see me like this. I look like I haven't slept in days because I haven't eaten
I know this skull
food
cave
in like
has
4
to be
days.
bigger.
Whatever. I don't care. Hold on. Alright. There you go. I look like I look like the bottom of somebody's shoe. I'm on day 4 of this vegan shit. And it is way harder to do. Okay. When you don't have
thankfully
money.
there's no skull
Unless Ian was
streaker
abusing
nearby.
her by means of starving and controlling her
hello,
food
stream
intake,
team.
which I highly
I
doubt she
already
would
said
run
that.
her mouth about that if that were the case by now. She's blatantly just lying to people about not having any money to garner sympathy from her viewers. I have no idea
Infested
why she would lie
block
about something so easy to prove. As
Ooh,
we've
it's
seen, she talks out of
one
her
of
ass a
them.
whole lot more than the average internet influencer, so at least it's nothing out of the ordinary here. It's pretty easy to see that Anissa Jomha here is a rather interesting person. She's not the usual crazy schizo that I cover on the channel. She's just a dumb booby streamer who very clearly doesn't have many skills outside of saying words out of her mouth.
Bitch.
She shot her shot and got with a very influential YouTuber,
Oh, no.
and it was obvious that despite this, she would still say a lot of stupid things that would not only continue to make her look bad, but now also make her boyfriend look bad by proxy. However, it was mostly just dumb stuff at the end of the day here, and in fact, she was actually an important figure behind the scenes as she will end up admitting she was the one who came up with the Tana Mojo Content Cop, a video that is arguably Ian's most famous of all. However, something that was interesting to see is that some months
I
after
didn't
the video
expect that,
came
like,
out,
warden
Anissa would end up
ghost
posting some
to
photos
show up.
online where she dressed very similarly and dyed her hair blonde just like Tana's, something that was just so weird to me I had to mention it before we moved on here. However, things are going fine for the both of them, but it was in spring 2020 where things would ramp up a bit, and this time, iDubbbz himself had some issues to deal with for the first time in a very good while. In March 2020, Anissa would announce that she was starting her OnlyFans page where she would post risque pictures of herself, you know, despite calling other women hoes in the past for doing the same exact
This is the
stuff
beginning
before
of
it was
the end
normalized
right
on the
here.
internet. Despite this,
Oh.
Magic happens when you dare to
Alright, let's see what ad this is. Oh no.
in March 2020, Anissa would announce that she was
2020,
starting
yes,
her
that is
OnlyFans
the
page where
beginning
she
of
would
the
post
end.
risque
Okay, so it
pictures
was,
of
like,
herself,
earlier
you
than I
know,
thought.
despite calling other women hoes in the past for doing the same exact stuff before it was normalized on the internet. Despite this, she would focus on more softcore types of content, and in turn this would cause a lot of people to start making fun of not only her, but also Ian as well, as this was his girl and she was hoeing herself out on the internet again, on top of people realizing she was being a hypocrite by making fun of other women in the past for doing exactly what she was doing now. It gets even more interesting as a month earlier people would see that she posted that she got a boob job that was paid for by Ian himself, and so people would start to get a weird taste in their mouths as it was clear that Anissa was using Ian's money so she could kickstart her
Cosmetic surgery
OnlyFans career
is
instead of spending it on
not
things
good.
she supposedly struggles for, like food as we heard earlier. Now, as the memes kept pouring through the internet, it seemed that things are gonna be mostly just a clowning session and nothing more. Hell, Ian himself even made his own post clearly running with the punches like he's known for, so it seemed that while this was a notable moment in both their careers, it wasn't going to affect them too badly in the end here.
Yeah.
That is until later on that same month when he would release his video,
Blighted
Sex Workers,
Beasts.
iDubbbz Complain. A short
Oh,
rant
yeah,
about
I
the current
forgot.
situation going on with this
This
girlfriend.
mod.
In said video, Ian says he's cool with Anissa selling pictures of herself online and basically makes fun of people for making fun of them, but the most interesting part is when he gets to his real rebuttals to what people are saying, such as one coming from YouTuber Atozy.
And then future jobs, they might be a little bit harder to come by.
I think this is one of the most important opinions to highlight because it really demonstrates a severe lack of real-world experience when you're saying that future jobs are going to be harder to come by because of an OnlyFans account. Like, if you think this affects your standing or your social credibility in getting jobs, you are so sadly mistaken.
As y'all can guess, what iDubbbz said here is just straight up wrong, as it is common for jobs to not want to hire people because they run an OnlyFans account, even by 2020 standards when it was just starting to really take off. There are many jobs that will reject you for selling yourself online. So for Ian to say this is untrue was not only shocking, as the dude has been known for having solid takes, but he was just straight up wrong on this one, and his audience made that pretty clear to him based on the dislike ratio the day it dropped.
It's kind of unfair
it seems that
for
Anyssa's influence is starting to get to him, as he would never dare say such a stupid thing in the past given his older content, and while he continued to get made fun of online now that his girl was throwing herself out once again, Ian never felt anything big from this other than this being the first time where he was clearly not right with how he responded to everything at hand. Even Leafy came back from a couple year hiatus to take shots at the guy on his channel, showing even his oldest enemies coming back to take the piss out of him.
And I think all of it is cool. Yeah, I know.
Dude, you're a fucking cuck.
Nothing really interesting would happen for a good minute after this. Ian would upload at a less frequent rate to still successful results, and Anissa would continue to post pictures of herself online for easy simp bucks. On June 28th, 2021, they would get married at a Las Vegas shotgun wedding, with Anissa announcing it as such just a day later on Twitter. However, people would take a look at her page for more info, as this seemed out of the blue for some of his fans. And it turns out that on their very wedding day, she was posting OnlyFans pictures, which is just unsettling to even think about.
Yeah,
it gets even more unsettling, as it would turn out that Ian also took her last name instead of the woman.
Wait.
On their very wedding day, she was posting OnlyFans pictures, which is just unsettling to even think about.
Yeah, that is pretty scummy.
It gets even more unsettling, as it would turn out that Ian also took her last name instead of the woman taking the man's last name like how it normally is, with him going from Ian Washburn to Ian Jomha from that point onwards. I found out this is because he had a rough time growing up around his father, with his father having legal issues, which, like, yeah, okay, I get it. That makes sense to me. But seeing the dynamic with Anissa selling herself online to not even having the respect to not promote herself on their very own wedding day, plus just the way she is as a person, lots of people kept getting this weird pit in their stomach that only seemed to grow bigger and bigger with every passing day. Now, in the background of all of this, Ian has still been making content. More specifically, have become known for his recent documentaries on Airsoft Fatty and Dax Flame, uploaded in 2019 and 2020 apiece.
I like that
documentary. The Dax Flame one is the more uninteresting of the bunch, as it's basically part of a game show rather than a true documentary, but Full Force is the one that really put this new era of iDubbbz on the radar, as it currently sits at just under 25 million views as of today. It's funny for me personally that this video was the one that really introduced this new era of content, because I didn't like it when it came out, and I still don't like it now.
This is great.
The reason I don't like it is because Ian is very clearly letting his ego slip through when talking to Airsoft Fatty and his friends, and you can definitely tell he's being condescending towards them, always shooting perplexed looks at the camera and making a lot of jokes upon jokes about him. It's really hard to clip anything in particular given how subtle it is throughout the runtime, but the way Ian comes off can simply be described as snotty, and it was something that rubbed me the wrong way years ago, as Fatty wasn't someone who deserved to be treated like that.
Yeah.
Now, as part of this newfound wave of success making these documentaries, Ian would of course plan a third one for 2021 to keep in stride with the yearly upload rate. However, 2021 would come and go with no new documentary being dropped, with most people assuming he probably couldn't find anyone who was worth looking into.
Diamond pickaxe,
however, it turns out that Ian indeed did record footage for his next documentary. He just never uploaded it. As on January 8th, 2022, comedian Sam Hyder released The Truth About iDubbbz, a 2-hour documentary he made on a man himself when he visited his place. It turns out that Ian has set up a recording session with Sam a year prior, back in March 2021, but Sam figured that Ian was there to punk him for falling off after basically getting blacklisted from network TV due to his Adult Swim show $1 Million Extreme Piece getting a bad rep in the news cycle before it was canceled, rather than actually produce a real dive into his daily life. And so he and $1 Million Extreme got together and made a list of things to do to iDubbbz to troll him during his stay.
So we have the iDubbbz gaslighting video document here. This was our prep document. Can you scroll down? Stuff to buy. Lots of alcohol, a bunch of Pokemon cards. Try to tell him what Pokemon is, as if it's some new thing like crypto. Buy parakeets from Petco. Fill fridge with unbagged meat. Spend 10K on scratch tickets. A bunch of dead wasps. Record a lot of bad rap music. Stage fright where Sam re-records breaths. Insists the auto-tune's in the wrong key. super quiet ad libs. like
I'll have to start getting rid of stuff.
a song with the hook swag like iDubbbz. Stage fight over who gets to use the alias Cream Boy.
The whole documentary is mainly just them lightly trolling the guy, like with them hanging out at an old dentist's office they rented to talking about cryptocurrency and drug abuse. But they would keep the trolling itself vague enough that it was clear iDubbbz could tell something was off, but he couldn't put his finger on it.
I'll
The
eat this
interview
lava
between the
fruit and see
two in the
what
middle is
happens.
just as interesting as well, as Sam set things up with the classic
no
dominant
way,
posture
fire
in the taller
resistance?
rolling chair while iDubbbz is relegated to the shorter and lower
That's
couch.
pretty
And it was
useful.
here that he would reveal the reason he came over to make the documentary was because Sam copyright claimed a video he made about his brony dating simulator troll game from almost 8 years ago at that point.
Some people just don't get it. That Squarespace isn't just
No.
for websites. You can get a domain from Squarespace too.
Well,
Well, no.
I don't know. I feel absolutely hopeless.
You remember making
You know,
a pony game?
Yes.
playing video games is like the only thing
There
I'm
were some
decent
creators
at.
at the time who made videos about this fake pony project.
Yeah?
I'm scared.
Were you one of them?
I was one of them.
What did I do?
Do you have any guesses?
Did I say you or something?
No, you copyright claimed the video.
Really?
Yes. And then you sent me an email.
That might not have been me. Oh,
You don't
okay.
think so?
I sent you an email.
It kind of seems like something that you would do.
I mean, I don't
Oh,
do
dude,
most copyright claims.
the tension between
The
them.
email was, I will release the copyright claim on your video if you can send me a video of yourself squatting 200 pounds below parallel.
Why didn't you do that? You'd be so much stronger now if you'd done that.
Yeah.
Damn. Did I create an enemy with that?
I mean, for a period.
Damn,
I didn't like you.
I'm sorry.
You were an asshole.
I'm sorry. that's no good.
Yeah, why'd you do that to me? That's what led to this day today.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so are you gonna punk me?
You're getting punked.
Really? How are you
Oh,
gonna
this is so. Oh, this
I'm
is
gonna make
weird.
you
This
look
looks
like
like a
a- like an
part of a
asshole.
horror film.
Really?
Which isn't hard to do.
Is that really the case?
No.
Sam would reveal that after iDubbbz visited that he ghosted him and ceased contact, so he and his team decided to edit up the footage themselves and drop it on their own as they put in $15,000 into the project and didn't want it to go to waste. However, people saw how iDubbbz is being shady with the way he went about to try to make Sam look like a bad guy on top of ghosting him, so they would start to question if he would ever release his footage or leave the project in the dust like it had been. However, just a few weeks later,
Oh,
Ian
you
would
little-
drop Getting Away With It on February 2nd, the documentary on Sam Hyde that was once thought to be lost forever, showcasing everything from his point of view. It's
Yeah,
honestly
shout out
not a
to
bad
Opposing
watch either,
Force.
as it's very interesting seeing two people make documentaries on each other from different points of view. And if anything, it even adds more
Oh,
to the
crap.
situation as there's a
Hey,
section
look!
dedicated to Danny, the
It's
girl that
another
Sam
one of the
hired to help
Blighted
him with
Beast.
the
That
trolling,
mod
in
does
which Ian
work.
worried she was initially being abused before finding out he was being trolled.
But when it came to Danny, it was just sad.
Okay, so yeah, after you just like stop smoking, your blood pressure goes like all the way down. Can't you like give her a hug, you know, like blood just stop flowing. Right.
I really didn't know how to feel. I would say that the rest of the guys made me medium level uncomfortable. Danny made me extremely uncomfortable.
I have more. You want to see my tattoos? I feel like a dog sitting on the floor.
At that point, I feel irresponsible just like talking to her. It felt like we need to get her help or something.
There's those two like that's a one-time thing. Danny, nobody cares if you have cancer, okay?
I'm curious about your relationship with Danny. Has she been on drugs since she met you?
She's been on drugs since before she met me. So if you're implying that I've driven her to drug use, you are incorrect.
Okay, fair enough. I mean,
Oh
that's
gosh,
what I wanted
I gotta
to
get my
say.
anus out of here.
Good. Yeah. Glad you got that out of the way.
Have you tried to get her any help?
No, seeing as she's a girl I paid $500 to shave her head and pretend to be my girlfriend, no, I haven't tried to get her any help.
Yikes.
Do you want me to
Those
try?
guys seem
I don't know
pretty
that well.
unethical.
It's probably not my business to get her off drugs. Also, I think I told her to put her hand in your pocket and pretend to be on drugs.
Shut up.
You think are you serious? You're gonna date a girl that has her hair shaved like that?
Yes.
You think I'm a fucking mental case?
Yes.
I don't know. Bald women are kind of
Now,
underrated.
people still to this day debate on whether Ian scrapped the project because he got trolled or if he was just truly late to uploading it, but that doesn't really matter much as Ian still ghosted Sam for months instead of giving him an update on the progress and very clearly did not like he got trolled. And the lack of communication is the more important part here as this would become a recurring theme from this point onwards. Now, coming out of the Sam Hyde and iDubbbz dual documentaries, while there was still a small minority who were clowning on iDubbbz for letting Sam get away with it, most people really enjoyed the content for what it was and assumed they would be on at least neutral terms from that point onwards, with Sam himself even praising it for not being skewed in a certain direction to paint him in a false light. In fact, on top of his documentary being in the works, Ian had a much bigger project he'd been working on, and that was his new event Creator Clash, an influencer boxing event that would gather some of the most popular YouTubers and internet figures from around the globe to compete together in Tampa, Florida, slated to go down on May 14th, 2022, just a few months later. While old school fans knew that iDubbbz' affinity for boxing came way back in 2016 when he and reaction content creator Genius were supposed to fight only for him to slither away, this was seen as the next step of entertainment for the man. Something that was not only a callback to his YouTube roots, but also relevant in modern times as not only was influencer boxing still taking off, one of the things that he and Sam did together was practice some boxing moves under a bridge. In fact, many people assumed that Sam would end up on the card given a recent connection online together, but it turns out he wasn't allowed for what Ian and Anissa said is a business risk for their brand in the Twitter space in March that year.
We worked with Sam Hyde for a period, and it was tough. You know, he was wanting to put on his own show,
that guy associated with Deagle
and it was funny, but he's not a super cooperative guy. He's very unpredictable. So involving him in our event just isn't a good idea. I think most people would.
Business risk.
I think most people would understand that.
Yeah, it's a huge business risk. I mean, we're getting guys signing to agree to be within like 7 pounds of each other. I can't trust that. I mean, you can't really trust that. It's just hard to have trust there.
Now, this was seen as a strange move given Sam is a popular, if controversial, online figure and can clearly put on a show, but this was seen as just a whatever, I guess this kind of sucks though kind of moment.
Chad Sam
However,
Hyde
things
versus
would ramp
the
up
Virgin
very quickly
iDubbbz.
here, as not only would Sam not be a fighter, he wouldn't even be allowed in the stadium period, as Sam and the rest of $1 Million Extreme would spend $10,000 on front row tickets and pull up to a small party to meet Ian a day prior, only to find out they were banned from the entire event itself as revealed to YouTuber Brandon Buckingham.
So we're talking to him and we're trying to reason. Here was Ian's A plan. He knew about the tickets before we pulled up. He was gonna ban all of Sam's tickets. He was gonna refund them.
I was looking forward to seeing a bigger cave.
And it was gonna be a surprise for when we first got there.
This is
And he was gonna wait until I was in Tampa to spring that news on me.
That was his gift. That was his nice surprise gift.
Yeah, haha, made you come to Tampa.
Who's the puppet master now, Samuel?
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
It would have been him, gee whiz.
But yeah, we spent 45 minutes in the parking lot with him and his girl just trying to explain we're not here to troll or punk you, man. Like, Sam trained Harley. Harley's fighting. We want to support.
Oh yeah, Sam trained Harley Morgenstern, the epic mealtime dude,
dang it.
for the fight. That which only made it even more odd that Ian would ban Sam and his crew as they helped out one of the fighters for his own event. Eventually, everybody except Sam were able to convince Ian to let him in, and so with this revelation coming to light, it seemed that his beef with Sam wasn't over yet, as it was obvious that Ian saw throwing the ban hammer his way was an attempt at getting back at him for trying to rile him up during the production of his documentary on him. Nonetheless, Creator Clash was an enormous success where credit is due, with them raising $1.3 million for charity and selling over 10,000 ticket seats and 100,000 pay-per-views. Ian would lose to Dr. Mike in a final fight, but it was still very impressive they managed to pull together such a huge haul of charity money in just a single night. And though the Sam Hyde situation soured things a bit for the more hardcore online users, things are doing fine for Ian as he rested up and people rewatched the highlights, such as Airsoft Fatty singing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
Oh.
However, Sam, seeing how Ian had completely shafted him after pulling that little stunt off, would start to be a lot more honest with his takes on him. Such as in that aforementioned interview, he would reveal that Ian was acting like a little child when not getting his way towards the end of the documentary he was recording.
But at one point, he said, at the tail end of the documentary, when he wasn't getting the footage that he wanted, he was really upset, like an angry, child. Like he was pouting. He was fucking pouting in his car and shit. And he said, not to me, but to somebody on the crew, he said, usually I'm the puppet master in these situations.
And Nissa would also start to poke the bear by talking shit about Sam online, telling this story called The Scorpion and the Frog and how Sam is a scorpion because it's in his nature to be a bad person.
like maybe now Sam would be more open to it. But to be honest, I have a very strong feeling in my head. It's like that. My dad always used to talk about the scorpion and the frog. I don't know if you guys like have ever heard that story, the scorpion and the frog, where the frog, he's
okay,
like,
Anissa, we know, we get it.
He knows not to trust the scorpion. Scorpion, like, wants to kill the frog, wants to kill and eat the frog. But there's one day the scorpion is stranded on an island, and he needs to get off the island because it's obviously he's fucked, he can't swim. So he asks the frog to help him, and the frog, thinking like, okay, like, you know, you need help. If we get into the water, you know, you sting me, we both die. I can help you. I know that you're not gonna like hurt me on the way back. And the scorpion ends up stinging him, and they both drown. And he's like, "Why'd you do that?" And the scorpion's like, "I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature." And my dad's always like, "See, some people, it's just in their nature to do things like this.
It's in Anissa's nature to be.
It's just who they are."
Sam would be made aware of this on a stream a few weeks later and going to talk shit about Ian and Anissa, revealing that some of her own family had contacted him and said she's a bad person herself.
Wow.
He's got an ego. Yeah. And he thinks he's a fucking, like, mastermind. And he definitely viewed me as a tool, like a documentary subject,
so
stepping
the
stone
iDubbbz
guy that he could
all along he was just
eviscerate with
kind
his big
of
brain in order to make
not
fortune,
as
stop
good as we
calling
thought
him a
he
cuck,
was, you know,
etc.
That was the plan.
That was his plan. Yes, Scorpion, because I flipped it on him when he came out here to make me look like an ass. I don't think so, Anissa, bitch, ho. Try again, sweetie.
Anissa or Anissa?
It doesn't matter. Even your own family hates you, bitch. Anissa's family hits me up. Her family, I've been hit up. I've been hit up by her family members talking shit about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even your own family hates you, bitch. What does that say about you and how up you are? They said that you used your Alzheimer's father as a dramatic prop. That's what Creator Clash 1 was for. It was for Alzheimer's or something like that. And Anissa was up there like, I'm just so happy we could raise all this money for Alzheimer's. One of your own family members hit me up and said you don't care that much about your father, and that your father, you have like a strained relationship or something, and that you don't care about Alzheimer's.
This is a crazy one.
Oh crap.
What the hell is this?
What? What's
Is that
what?
her last name?
He's taken her last name.
I mean, it's
Brother.
not that bad. I mean,
they married in June, with iDubbbz' last name changed from Washburn to Joma.
all right. So
My brother.
I'm kind of,
man.
I'm hesitant to summon the warden.
He is deeply in pain.
Between the end of Creator Clash and the
Because
rest of
it's kind of
2022,
close to our basic
iDubbbz only
base.
posts 3 videos on the channel, with that being a couple days after the fight and how he's doing after taking the L, a video ranting about Doomsday Preppers, and a video playing with a Thanos head fidget toy. Honestly, given the fact the first one was an update soon after the fight, it doesn't count much, so that means in the span of almost a year, Ian only uploaded 2 videos on the channel, with the both of them being on the meh side of things. The Doomsday Prepper one seemed to lack that punch iDubbbz is known for, but he's also been in the game for so many years he's bound to have a bit of a dull video every now and then, so that's easy to brush off, but the Thanos one is just odd. I don't really have much to say, he's just playing with a bunch of weird pimple-popping fidget toys and eventually made one based on Thanos, and that's literally it. It was not the normal kind of iDubbbz content, though in hindsight, it was a sign of what was to come for the future of content on the channel. Now, despite 2022 being a dull year after Creator Clash, it would turn out that Ian was indeed working on something else, as in January 2023, he, Anissa, and their business partner Uncle Dame will launch the Maximum Damage channel and upload their first video, that being a series called The Hot Seat hosted by Daxflame, with the first episode featuring Airsoft Fatty. However, the show itself was pretty boring, as Dax doesn't really have that kind of pull to be a game host, and the guests themselves were all mostly mediocre and safe people like Philip DeFranco rather than someone crazy and interesting. So, it comes to no surprise that it went on hiatus in March 2023, just 5 episodes into its existence. Now, as we've seen throughout this video, Anissa has always been trying to involve herself in the internet beyond just being iDubbbz' girlfriend, but she's never been able to get over the hump of being just another semi-successful Twitch streamer from over half a decade ago. She obviously wanted in on the mainstream Twitch crowd known as the Poggers community, with personalities like Bloodwig, XQC, QT Cinderella, and that whole slew of people. As we know, she never got near those levels as she simply wasn't accepted by that crowd. And for those that don't know the mainstream streaming industry, it is virtually impossible to get into a space like this without people knowing and liking you. So, she decided to use her connection she built through Ian to start a podcast in March 2023 titled The Take with their idol Casey Tron and somebody named iDubbbz, a figure known in the Twitch streamer politics section of the internet, the second best option for the streamer fame she wanted, and a very toxic side of the internet that will become relevant later on as well. The podcast will only last for 2 episodes as they realize they probably don't care about the venture that much, and the topics themselves are extremely boring in nature. Like with the first episode talking about streamers like Aiden Ross and Asmongold and how the manosphere is toxic, which yeah, of course it can be sometimes, but they only discuss surface level talking points that everybody has heard already. There's also this one part where I'm pretty sure Anissa is talking about Acadian saying how he shut off her stream back during her booby streamer days for being too revealing one night, which only adds more to my personal theory she broke up with him because he didn't like she was selling her body online.
I remember back in the day, I got, like, whoever my partner guy was, shut my stream off for me. Because I had, like, I was wearing a lower cut shirt, and I was wearing a lace bra underneath. You know how, like, lace goes a little bit higher or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, the lace was, like, poking or through or whatever. It could shut my stream off. And he, like, messaged me and was like, don't wear that again. And I was like, okay, can I, like, stream again? And he was like, I would wait until tomorrow.
There's also another part where Anissa is ranting about how young male audiences are the worst to have, yet she sells her body online and therefore attracts that very crowd, so I have no idea why she's complaining about them when they're the reason she makes any sort of money, period, outside of being iDubbbz's wife.
I think, like, honestly, like, young male audiences are the fucking worst audiences on the planet, by far. And I think that it's an easy way to get a bag really quickly, but I think everybody grows to regret it that, like, specs into that
so badly.
Like, I am extremely confident she's projecting here because it sounds way too close to home, but she's never tried making any content to not attract that kind of audience online ever in her career, so it just rings hollow at the end of the day here. Episode 2 is just them talking about the streamer awards and small things that went down there, like how Kai Cenat didn't show up and how Justin Minks got so drunk she was throwing stuff around and got kicked out of the after party and basically ruined her connections to the mainstream streamer world, but it wasn't anything worth of note. The only thing worth noting was Anissa getting rid of her boob job while Ian was resting up from Creator Clash, meaning that the whole venture was for nothing and she wasted a lot of his money as well. It didn't matter much, however, though, as it was clear that the reason Ian was being a lot less active online was because he was getting ready for Creator Clash 2. It was just a matter of time when it would be announced. On January 24th, 2023, Ian would announce Creator Clash 2 on his channel and that tickets were now live. It was slated to take place on April 15th in Tampa again, and it was looking like running it back would be another success given how the year prior went. However, it was noticeable leading up to the fight date that the online promotion was a lot less in general, as there were constant posts about Creator Clash 1 being made the year prior, yet for CC2 there was at least half the amount going about online. However, despite all that, there were still many content creators promoting the event leading up to the fight, and one of those creators was Froggy Fresh, a fighter on the card and someone who had been going around social media talking about it whenever he could, even on the official podcast in February just a month after it was announced. In fact, he was slated to fight Anissa's old crush Chris Reagan in the ring, and so those that knew the lore here were extra interested in the outcome in the next few months. However, things would get weird as when promoting the fight on Twitter on March 24th, a random account named the Pied Piper would call him an imp. Seems like just some basic name calling and nothing of interest, except Froggy would reply to them saying, better an imp than pimp, shout out your boy iDubbbz. Anissa come get your mom laughing and crying emoji ×3. He would then reply to another message of this person talking shit about him and name drop Marine herself entirely, this time making reference to Anissa's crush on Chris Reagan and cracking a joke saying that iDubbbz hired him to get at Chris as a way of revenge by proxy. Now, people assumed it was just general internet shit talk, but it turned out this was actually Marine Joan Hunt and she got caught. And so she was going to delete the Twitter account very soon after people put it together, as it was really funny seeing her still involving herself in her daughter's job and playing Twitch mod even 7 years later. Froggy was also poking fun at the Jomhas already, as just a day before on the 23rd, he said this in one of his promo videos about the fight.
On April 15th, if I don't hurt you beyond what anybody could have imagined, I will be so disappointed in myself that I will subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans.
It's some mild jabbing, and he's clearly having some fun with it. But that fun would be swiftly cut short as just a day after the spat with Anissa's mother, the official Creator Clash Twitter account would announce that they were dropping Froggy off the card entirely and that they were seeking a replacement just 3 weeks before the fight was to go down. To say this was controversial was an understatement, as many people were very upset he would get dropped for what was literally just mild trash talk. Like, very mild trash talk, especially for a boxing event where this kind of stuff is normal and heavily encouraged. And so at just 3 weeks before the fight, this would be fresh enough on people's minds and a deciding factor on whether they should pay for tickets or even a pay-per-view after seeing Froggy get shafted over one of the pettiest things imaginable. Except, there was a theory floating about that it might not have been because he made fun of Anissa and Marine, but actually because he recently posted pictures showing that he was training with none other than Ian's sworn rival, Sam Hyde. We already know that Ian and Anissa don't like Sam for the documentary fiasco and that Sam doesn't like them after they shafted him before CC1. And it would also turn out that Marine herself was very much not a fan of Sam either, talking trash about him and Froggy in the same vein after she learned that he was training with the man himself. It wasn't shocking seeing Marine being a lot more in touch with internet influencer culture given she modded for Anissa's Twitch streams and she was a booby streamer, but it was still odd seeing that her involvement was a vital catalyst for Froggy's wrongful firing. But whatever, they found a replacement fighter, the YouTuber William Haynes, and things are still looking to be a repeat success from last year. Hell, Creator Clash even put out a message saying that they and iDubbbz donated $50K apiece to Froggy's charities, so at least they were still pulling off what they sought out to do in the first place, which is good. All we had to do was wait for the event to go down and see if they'd be able to ride through this Froggy Fresh controversy or not. Creator Clash 2 would go down as expected and give people their many hours of boxing entertainment, with Chris getting destroyed as William was much taller and simply better than him, and iDubbbz losing in the ring yet again, this time to Alex Wasabi. Things still seem to be fine even though the Froggy situation soured it a bit, and everybody online seemed to be content with how the event went down. Well, there were still a couple hiccups, like these Sam Hyde fans all dressed as Garfield who weren't allowed in because they were covering their faces with masks. They were eventually let in an hour and a half after waiting outside and being told they had to keep them off, but still that was a waste of everybody's time. In fact, it seemed that security was a lot more hardcore in general, and it turns out this is because Sam said on stream that he was going to show up dressed in drag and that he had a flight to catch soon. The thing is, Sam was just doing some good old-fashioned trolling and getting into the heads of Ian and Anissa, and he would continue that up until the fight, as a fan who spotted Ian in Tampa was sent a pic they took of Sam pretending that he was in Tampa stalking and following the dude around the city. Also, speaking of Sam, despite being called a business risk by Ian and Anissa, he would end up getting attached to the KSI boxing event in August 2022 fighting against James Thompson, in which he would represent himself under the character of the Candyman, an Irish man with an attitude and a lot to say about the world. Despite being the underdog and predicted to lose his bout, he would end up winning the fight to a roaring success, and during the post-game interview, the Candyman had a few things to say about who he wants to fight next.
You got anyone you want to call out in the heavyweight division?
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker? I'm coming to kill you in Los Angeles.
Yeah, fuck Hassan Piker.
Or in the ring?
No, in real life.
Nice.
I'm going to stalk him and become obsessed with him and wear his makeup and his dresses and use his skin as a coat like the ancient Irish did.
Just 4 days later after the fight, Ian and Anissa will hop on a call with his good friend Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions, former content collaborator and best known these days for the H3 podcast, to talk about the aftermath of the fight together. It's not really too interesting other than them talking about how there was a significantly higher level of pirating compared to last year, and also some stuff about Ethan's co-worker AB and how he unfortunately lost his match against content creator Nathan, also known as Dad. They also mentioned that Fox offered them 7 figures to buy the brand, but they turned it down, and Anissa notably says that she and Ian haven't made any money from this year's Creator Clash.
Last time we had you guys on after the first event, though, I said you guys gotta make money. Have you not changed anything since then?
I don't know. I find the
maybe
whole
next year
nugget thing.
We've talked about taking a salary
mechanic
next year because it is more than a full-time job. I mean,
did you guys not take a salary at all?
No, not last year. This year I don't think we will. I don't know. We haven't. It won't be a big one if we do. It's on par with every other employee.
Dude, this is nice.
Kind of popish, but I don't know. We gotta look at some numbers and stuff before we make a decision on that.
Yeah, we just gotta figure it out. It's I mean, we're not in any financial trouble. It's just obviously I get to take this year off, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, let's just start grinding.
We'll focus on YouTube and other things.
But next year we'll take we're reworking the framework so we you know, our co-workers are making us take a salary next year. That's fine.
I want to point out specific how Anissa said she doesn't think they'll get anything from this year's fight and not last year's, and Ian also saying they're not in financial trouble. Ian would also mention that he was working on a new content cop video, a series he hadn't worked on in years, about a recent controversy, but there was no timetable on when it would come out, with people just sitting by and waiting for it to drop. Now that content comp video wouldn't end up being a content comp, but rather Ian addressing the Froggy Fresh situation in May 2023. Now this video is very manipulatively put together to paint Froggy in the worst light possible, such as how Ian plays clips of him talking shit about him and Anissa while failing to tell the audience this was after he got kicked off the card, so of course he would say mean things. He's mad about being kicked off for what he felt was a bullshit reason. That bullshit reason would be confirmed to be because he worked with Sam Hyde on his training, and when Ian goes over this, he flashes text on screen with Froggy so the viewer has barely any time to read him, and then pushes the narrative that he was being straightforward with Froggy on why he kicked him off the card and that Froggy was being unreasonable. Except when you go through the text themselves and pausing, you can see that Ian was being vague about kicking him off or not, and Froggy was saying that he wasn't going to stop working with Sam just because he talked shit about him and Anissa online. Mind you again, they were the ones who shafted Sam first after he trolled them and Ian wasn't able to get his little hit piece made on him, and given Sam wasn't doing anything except saying mean things about him online and getting in their heads, it was clear that Ian was being a petty bitch about things that he brought upon himself. You can tell that Ian wanted total control of everything going on involving the event, and when it came to Froggy simply wanting to just train with someone he dislikes, he decided instead of just letting it be, even if he might not like Froggy anymore, to ban him off the card for daring not to give in to his wishes. It's some really petty shit, and the fact he tried to push this narrative onto Froggy was almost malicious were not for the fact that the other reasons he lists off about him were that stupid to listen to. For example, Ian says that Anissa is just a person who's trying to exist when that very clearly is just a lie. Anissa is a public figure who has been around for almost a decade up to that point and is constantly appearing on streams of other big influencers, so to downplay her involvement as if people are harassing a random woman is ignorant.
Let me just say, Anissa is just trying to exist. You know, she doesn't want anything to do with the drama. She doesn't want anything to do with this shit. And I have brought a lot of it into her life. And I take responsibility for that. But unfortunately, a lot of people who think that I've changed or call me a cuck or whatever, they've decided, instead of saying that I've changed and that I'm the decider of my future, it's that Anissa has changed me.
Another part is how Ian says Froggy hates women because he says mean things about sex workers, and how he doesn't want a person like that in their event because he's being mean.
Like, if you're just gonna blatantly disrespect sex workers and women and other fighters, saying that they're here to touch e-thoughts, like, it is so disrespectful and shitty. I don't want to share the space with you. I don't want other people to be uncomfortable because you're there.
This is someone who is running a boxing event, mind you. A place where people get beat up for entertainment, complaining about somebody saying mean things on the internet. Like, unless Froggy was planning to harass people for being hoes, this is just Ian complaining somebody doesn't have the same worldview as him and trying and failing to use it as another excuse for kicking him off the card. It also doesn't help that Froggy has gone on record saying that he believes women are tougher than men in general. A take that is most certainly respectful of women and the complete opposite of the false narrative Ian is trying to paint around the guy.
I do think women are a lot tougher than men in general.
Yeah, but that's
like,
definitely.
Emotionally, like, women are so much tougher than men.
The video was a complete failure from the moment it dropped, and a huge amount of people caught on to it pretty quickly because you can very clearly see Ian trying to paint Froggy in a false light. And to top that all off, this was coming from the guy who made fun of women for being hoes in the past and is complaining about doing it now, so it all rings hollow and just sounds like 26 minutes of Ian whining to the camera. It was straight up petty to kick Froggy off the card, full stop. And the fact this ended up getting Anissa's former crush, Chris Reagan, to get pummeled in a lopsided match was even unfair to that guy as well. But hey, maybe Anissa has a thing for watching her crushes get beat up in a ring. But what do I know, right? Ian had already lost a huge amount of public favor as his fanbase was not the type to support OnlyFans chicks and were on Froggy's side because he did him dirty straight up. And he wouldn't do himself any favors with this next video titled, I Miss the Old iDubbbz, uploaded just 2 weeks later. The gist of this video is that iDubbbz doesn't like how he used to be mean and say slurs in the past, and that he's completely 180'd and changed his entire persona, going from a funny, edgy guy to a soft, insecure man who feels his past is somehow the worst thing ever. It's honestly a sad watch because he talks as if he was a truly bigoted and hateful man when his fanbase very clearly knows he isn't. He just used language to explain things in a harsh manner. And though it's language that wouldn't fly today, it doesn't take away from the message he was trying to put out back then. For example, he says that all his content cop videos were hateful and that they were uncalled for, and specifically apologizes to Tana Mongeau as the only person he name-dropped, the girl he put off the N-word joke on during her failed convention back in 2018.
I'm sorry to everyone that I made content cop videos on. I still don't like the majority of you, and that's fine, but I can recognize that you did not deserve the hate and harassment that I sent your way. I particularly want to apologize to Tana. Tana, I'm sorry. I should have never made that video. I harassed Tana in person and then harassed her online, and that's deplorable behavior. It's so stupid.
Now, the way he represents himself makes it seem as if he was the villain, but in the actual content cop video he made about her, there are multiple clips of her saying deplorable things such as wishing serious harm on iDubbbz to saying the N-word herself multiple times online.
A couple months ago, Tana Mongeau tweeted at me that she was very unhappy with my use of the N-word. I didn't respond to her tweet. Instead, I did a bit of research and I found out that she used the dreaded N-word in the past. But she didn't use the N-word in the same way that I use it. She used it in a very mean-spirited way.
You know you're stupid. You fucking... Growing up in Vegas, everybody said those words, and I didn't even know that they were considered racist at all. They were in rap songs, and I totally thought it just meant like homie or like friend.
The reason he did the say N-word thing to her at the convention wasn't because he was being racist. He was giving her a taste of her own medicine in the vein of, oh, this girl doesn't have issues saying it herself, yet will morally grandstand when others do the same, so let's see how she'll react to it in real life. That's what's bizarre about the way he frames himself in his apology video, because the message is very clear in the content cop, and even though in hindsight it wasn't a good move to make, back then was a lot different than current day. It served as a deserved wake-up call for Tana, and in fact, she herself would even say so on her podcast Cancel with Tana Mongeau and Brooke Schofield just a week later.
And I guess he posted this apology video apologizing for like a bunch of things he did in the past, one of them being the video he made with me or like to me or something. And I was like, damn. Like, I just never expected that, and I don't know how I feel about it, you know, because like I kind of think I like deserved that, and maybe that's like dark like to say, but like I don't feel like I'm owed an apology, and maybe that's because I've accepted it so much that like people always ask me if you could go back in time and like make that never happen, like would you? And I always say no, because I feel like it was a very dark time period of my life when it came to like self-reflection and trying to figure shit out, and like I think I would be a completely different
I think
person
if we get lost, we can
that.
just make new
I was on track to just be so on my high
it's not
horse
that big
and,
of a
like,
deal.
Egotistical and like
Just
nothing
like start
could go
over
wrong,
again,
that something
and
going
one day
wrong
we'll end
gave
up
me
back
such a dose of reality
cave
that like
base.
this might not last forever. Like
yeah,
you need to be held accountable for actions. I don't know, like it made me do so much necessary growth, and I think it also changed the entire trajectory of my career in life. Like I don't even think canceled would be here if like I didn't get canceled.
Release the moss. That belongs to me.
It wasn't like I went into this being like I'm canceled, like I'm scandalous. Like if anything, I wanted to be brand safe.
Oh yes.
To an extent, you know what I mean? And just like everything, I feel like it really shaped the course
next to Clay
of my life. And so I guess because of how much I wouldn't go back in time and like change anything, I've never like felt like I like deserved an apology for that. I was like,
I feel like
you had that coming, and like
she words things in a very understandable way, knowing that she was going
it's
on this
crazy
huge
how
ego trip
Tana
at the time and being taken
like
down a
more
peg led to her
respectable
realizing
than
that this
iDubbbz
could all go away if she doesn't clean
like
up her
real
act.
talk.
And so while she didn't deserve any of the online harassment, as pretty much everyone can agree with that, it seems that she understands she was being a bad person back in the day, and that her experience with iDubbbz helped fix her ways for the better. That brings us right back to the apology video, because it was clear that back in the day what Ian's message meant, but now he himself seems to have forgotten the purpose of the video entirely, and instead is only focused on the harassment she got after he dropped the project. He feels as if he's responsible for other people's actions outside of his own control, but the thing is, when an internet figure makes it clear that the people mentioned in a project are to not be harassed, there's nothing that can be done if it ends up happening. As we know, Ian very much did not want people to harass Tana, as he's not completely deranged. So it all just sounds like for some reason he has this new belief that he was somehow a bad person drilled into his head. And the only reason he could have gotten that belief is by hanging out with a whole entirely new crowd, that crowd being Anissa and the entire mainstream Twitch streamer scene. It's a truly bizarre video because Ian completely throws his entire audience under the bus and says a lot of his fans are bad people, and he basically ends things off saying that he's changing to expect different content from him in the upcoming future.
Alright.
He also says his infamous line that he's acquired empathy at the age of 32, a line that he will never be able to live down for the rest of his life.
I think only in these past couple of years have I gained the ability empathy, and I'm very ashamed to admit that. It sounds really pathetic to say at the age of 32 I've acquired empathy.
If he thought that throwing away his entire fan base and all those years of hard work he did to satiate his current friend circle was bad, it only gets worse as on July 3rd, about 2 months after that video, Ian will drop a new one talking about the harsh reality of CC2. It turns out that not only did they not donate any money to any charities, it was because they were negative $250,000 in the red due to their bad spending habits and poor planning, so they actually owed money instead. The reason why is because on top of a bad marketing campaign where lots of people had no clue the event was even going down, pirating pay-per-view streams was also part of the mix, and they only sold 50,000 tickets that year, half of what they got last year. On top of that news, Ian also revealed they got a bigger stadium which costs more money, basically going by the bigger equals better mindset when planning the entire event. On top of that news, he also revealed that they flew out various internet influencers out of their own pockets and paid for an entire hotel to have them at, meaning that the majority of those famous internet figures who showed up to the fight got a free ride fully paid by him, Anissa, and whoever helps run the event. On top of that news, they also threw a gala before the fight and an after party the day after to process their trauma, meaning that they not only wasted money flying out content creators to an event and buying their hotel rooms for them, they also wasted money on parties that didn't need to happen. Rumors say it was because Anissa wanted to do this as a way to feel special and hang out with bigger, more famous people and feel as if she belonged to this internet influencer crowd, and honestly, I believe that 110% just knowing the way she's like. The only notable thing to point out here outside of all of that is that iDubbbz refutes the rumors that he was pocketing money from Creator Clash, saying that people are lying about that.
Another thing I want to address is there are some people floating rumors around that we're pocketing money from Creator Clash, and that's extremely hurtful because it has been nothing but the opposite. I understand that some people out there don't like me. I'm okay with that, but the thing I'm not okay with is just lying to people and making up shit for the sake of
I should have
clicks.
paused the video. I should have paused the video because I want to listen to it more, and I just realized, oh, that's Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I mean, this is hard enough as it is. Like, I don't want to make this video telling people that we made half as much, or we sold half as many pay-per-views as we did last year. And what I absolutely don't need is people spreading rumors about us pocketing money.
Oh yeah, and they also flew out Getty Images themselves to the parties to seem all official like a real boxing event. And oh look, it's Hassan Piker, Ian and Anissa's friend, dressed all fancy just like his $1 million home despite being a so-called socialist. Oh hey, it's Denims too, Anissa's old podcast co-host and friend of the two as well. What a surprise. Talk about a complete waste of money given most creators who were paid to show up probably didn't give a shit and just wanted some easy money and to have a good time. And given they weren't paying for any of it, of course they jump at the opportunity to network with influential people. Obviously, this was an extremely bad look for Ian, as not only did he just condemn his entire audience a couple weeks ago, we now found out that due to their ignorant spending habits that the whole point of the event was all for nothing. Fear not, however, as Ian would get the idea to start up a charity livestream in order to get as much money as possible to fulfill the purpose of CC2, and that they kinda did, as he would raise $162,000 to give to the various charities that were attached to the event. Of course, Anissa would get back on her old shit, however, as if there's one thing we know about her, it's that she loves to embarrass people with their private and personal information for some reason, and in this case while live to thousands of people and literally millions of his fans still having him fresh on their minds after he condemned him, she would reveal this about Ian.
I just want to ask him if you've always been shitting your pants.
No.
Because since I've known you, you've always had like IBS. You've always been shitting yourself.
Yeah, well.
Given how she mentioned she shoved a dildo in her ex-boyfriend when talking to Chris Reagan years back, it's safe to say she at least doesn't need any lube this time, I suppose. If there's one thing that really annoys me about all this, despite revealing that Ian shits himself, it's the fact that Anissa is nowhere to be seen in any of these apologies.
Yeah, that moment was like chapter 1, right? Or maybe like chapter 2 of iDubbbz's downfall. Chapter 1 was like when he was being hypocritical about OnlyFans and all that. Chapter 0 was like Anissa starting the OnlyFans, arguably. Or him getting with Anissa, right? That was chapter 1 of his lolcowdom. And this is like where it like goes downhill, right?
She's just doing whatever in the house and tweeting all silly-nilly while Ian faces the brunt of the entire YouTube scene for an event that she helps him run. She's not this behind-the-scenes private person with no skin in the game, and hell, she ain't even an exception to the rule as like an internet influencer working on a project that they want to keep to themselves given how much work it is. She very clearly wants people to know that she's involved in all this because she wants that internet fame, yet leaves her husband in the dust to take all the blame when things fell apart in their faces despite being part of the reason it failed to begin with. I can go on and on about just how much this snaky behavior infuriates me, especially when it's someone's wife, someone who's supposed to love and support their spouse, yet is revealing that he shits himself and very clearly is saying this information publicly to embarrass and arguably abuse him, but it's not worth getting into that rant as trust me, this isn't the end of it, as this was only the beginning in what would become the worst era of the iDubbbz channel ever. Now, Ian will continue to livestream in this new venture of his, but to be honest, it really just wasn't the move to make as he was boring on camera without skits and scripting, and notably enough, his energy seemed to be really low for somebody whose content has always been pretty high energy, or at the very least had good pacing to keep things steady. In fact, this lack of energy would translate into his next slew of uploads on the channel, as it was clear the dude was just simply not on his game anymore. I mean, you had him uploading videos ranking playground equipment in every generation of Cheez-Its for fuck's sake, and while Cheez-Its are pretty fire and easily a top tier snack food, this was iDubbbz we're talking about here. The dude never made content even close to this mediocrity until this new discovering empathy arc, and it was clear part of the reason his content became so safe was to appeal to this new crowd he was trying to cater to. The standout in terms of judging his fall off would be in the video legit food review Tiger Tales in my opinion, as the premise is already tied to a very popular skit featured in his Content Cop video on food reviewers, and was clearly something that people would assume all corners of the iDubbbz fanbase could get behind. However, the video itself is basically just him eating Tiger Tail flavored ice cream in the dirt and cracking tame jokes while doing so, and it was clear he wasn't really feeling the vibe when creating the video and probably just did it to get some content out on the channel. In fact, it seemed that Ian knew he was losing his edge as in January 2024, he would upload his video Cartnarks, iDubbbz Complains, in which he criticizes the channel Cartnarks for just being annoying and kinda mean. What's interesting about this video is you can really tell he's trying to recapture that edgy, energetic vibe again alongside his critiques. It's just that his critiques are complete dog shit and make him come off as a whiny loser in the process.
The first topic I want to cover with the Cartnarks is the insult of lazy bones.
You're very tired right now, and that's causing an error in your judgment, lazy bones. Be a better person and not be so lazy bones. What we do is we narc out people who are being big old lazy bones and not taking their cards back. You're being a lazy bone.
And I do have a handicap.
Is your disability lazy bones-itis?
There's a lot of people who say like, yeah, this ain't so bad. The Cartnark, he's hitting people with the white people insults. What's so wrong with that? It's like, dude, if someone called you lazy bones, would you not feel fucking awful? Especially if you're being lazy? That shit is like a level 9 white people insult. Those hurt.
Funnily enough, this is the kind of content that the side of the internet he's now trying to cater to enjoys to watch. That extremely super safe and sanitized side where if you say one thing they consider problematic, they get all pissy and make it their personality to try and cancel you for weeks on end. It's bizarre because you can see him trying to apply his old swagger to an audience that wouldn't even appreciate it, and while some of the old Ian shines through like his energy at some parts in this video, it just comes off like somebody trying to fit into a new crowd while still keeping his old antics up, something that just simply can't happen in this case. This comment sums up the video pretty well, as it truly does feel like Content Cop at home, and it was at this point where people basically accepted that Ian will never be able to get back to his old self as he was all but lost now. Now, Ian wasn't just making bad content on his main channel, as he and Anissa will end up starting a podcast in October 2023 titled She Ruined My Career on their Maximum Damage channel, a clear dig at their haters and them trying to seem all cheeky about it. However, this podcast, and when I say this, I am not trying to be hyperbolic right now, is the most boring podcast I have ever seen from such a big content creator in my entire life. It's basically just Ian and Anissa ranting about their relationship and personal issues, and I know that people have said that it basically feels like couples therapy broadcasted online, and while I initially thought they were being hyperbolic about it, nah, they really weren't at all, as it literally feels like a couple just ranting into the mic for hours on end. There's a reason the podcast gets very few views despite their size online, and it's not just because Ian cut off the majority of his fan base. It's because it's boring as hell. Funnily enough, they'd recorded an episode at YMS, the one guy who's technically been around Anissa's entire internet life since the very beginning, as we saw at the start of this video, showing perhaps the oldest side plot I've ever covered on the channel coming full circle here. I would normally play highlights of the podcast, but there are so few I only have one clip to work with that I find is worth showing, so have fun for the next minute.
I'm realizing that I'm caring less about body hair, like women with like armpit hair or
I think that's my fault.
arm hair.
Like 4 years ago, I just stopped shaving as often.
And you say he's
and I think
nasty.
you just had to get used to it.
No, that's not true.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
shave
don't-
all the time.
No, I only shave when I'm doing OnlyFans.
No, I think your perception of like what is shaven and what is not shaven is different.
Okay.
Because you can get like a little stubble and you're like, oh, I'm Sasquatch or whatever. That's not true.
No.
To
but-
the untrained eye, I'm like, yeah, that's a naked leg.
No, I won't shave for like 3 weeks on my armpits sometimes. Sometimes I look down, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, the armpits I don't even care about though.
I know,
And why
you-
does anyone care about that? They're just
Bro.
under your arm.
No,
like,
I know, I
unless
agree.
someone's like sexually attracted to armpits, I don't get the.
Which, by the way, I uploaded a picture of me yesterday where my arm was up, and someone did in the comments say, yes, armpit. So they do exist.
They also have another
Favorite
Patreon
food of
exclusive
slimes?
podcast called The Bog that they run, but it's just as boring as She Ruined My Career and is not worth getting into. Just know that they are both wasting their time on these podcasts rather than making good content, and my personal theory is that they do this because they can use it as an excuse for why Ian's channel keeps suffering. Now there's other stuff worth mentioning, like how people found out that Ian didn't go to Max Mofo's wedding in November 2023, one of the guys who was part of the iconic Cake Trilogy videos they uploaded years ago, a wedding that even Filthy Frank was able to make time to go to given he's now a busy music star and better known as Joji these days. It would turn out that Ian indeed was invited, but he chose not to go to it because he apparently was going to be busy that day.
Yeah, I talked to Max about the wedding situation. When he was first sending out invites, I was like really uncertain of how that was going to work out because I had some kind of important plans here in the States.
Definitely
So
important.
We went a month earlier to kind of give him and Kat our well wishes. That's why I was in Australia, and it's kind of also why we didn't do cold ones, is because he was ramping up for his wedding stuff.
Rumors say it was because Anissa had a tattoo appointment that day, and if true, that only adds the extra spice people wanted to see here in this little story going on. Now, I mentioned a little while ago how Ian was struggling to find his new content identity, as mixing both his old style with his new crowd he's trying to cater to simply wasn't working. However, he would indeed figure it out later that year with his video 100% Woman uploaded in September 2024, his first dive into this left-leaning political commentary geared towards that new crowd he wants to be a part of.
Oh,
He
gosh.
talks about transgender issues and other similar topics, and while it was extremely jarring to see this, as iDubbbz was the last guy I would ever expect to make a video talking about this subject matter, it got more views in his recent projects and showed him that this was the right move to make. Ian would follow up this momentum by bringing back bad unboxing, and while it doesn't have the same vibe as his older unboxing videos, this would also do well as it's easy to translate the premise of the series to any kind of crowd online, and so that would eclipse 100% women and get more views in the process.
I think this video is
He
like
would continue this momentum by
stopping me
uploading
from-
another leftist-focused political commentary video in Your Body, My Birth Vessel, now eclipsing the views of the bad unboxing video, and again
progressive.
showing that this new content wave must be the next big thing for
my
him.
goals
In
to
fact, this
remake
newfound success
Minnesota.
would encourage him to enter the fray of boxing entertainment again, as on February 7th, 2025, Ian would announce that
Oh, I
Creator
need to put
Clash
a
3
bet
was in the works for another event in Tampa in June after taking the last year off. While most people had their worries given how much of a shit show Creator Clash 2 was, most were wondering if Ian could keep up the newfound momentum he had going on, even if it was clear by this point that he'll never be going back to making videos catering to his original audience. Honestly, at first it seemed things were looking to be better, as it was safe to assume that Ian and
I
Anissa
don't
learned
know
their
what I'm
lesson
doing.
in spending money on random influencer parties was needless and a waste of money and time, and so some people held some hopes that they could pull off what they did with CC1 again. However, Ian Jomha here, high off his recent success at these leftist political commentaries, would take a gander at one of the biggest controversies in this space and take a crack at it himself, only for it to end up turning into the biggest mistake of his entire career, and that's saying something given everything we've gone over in this video so far. On April 12, 2025, Ian would upload a mysterious video to his Discord teasing the return of Cop after a 7-year hiatus.
Oh no.
To say that people, even his haters, were intrigued was an understatement, as the series had been known for causing huge impacts on the creators mentioned and would be the talk of the town for weeks. It was literally an entire YouTube event for the terminally online, and seeing that it was to release in just 4 days was the cherry on top. People would speculate on who it would be on, with the popular choice being Sam Hyde himself, as it was teased to release on April 16th, and that day just so happens to be Sam's birthday. However, the video that would drop would end up becoming the worst decision in Ian's entire life, and that's saying something given he chose to date and marry Anissa over there. On April 16th, 2025, iDubbbz would drop Content Cop H3, an hour-long dive digging into one of his old YouTube friends with a relationship lasting almost a decade up to that point.
Yeah, why would he
now,
make
to give a quick rundown on what Ethan Klein had been getting himself into lately to explain the existence of this video, it all starts with the October 7th attacks
like
where terrorist organization Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups launched thousands of rockets at Israel and killed over 1,000 people, including over 700 civilians, with half of that being the people attending the Nova Music Festival that day. Ethan used to run a series on his podcast with Hassan Piker called Leftovers, where they would talk about a lot of leftist politics given they both lean in that direction. However, their last episode together will be talking about the October 7th attacks, and since then they've stopped being friends and instead are now bitter rivals as they had an intense and widely publicized fallout due to their differing beliefs. In this context of a bunch of internet personalities latching onto the discourse to grow their brands, it's an insanely messy and nuanced situation with both Ethan and Hassan having their fair share of orbiters attacking each other over their political beliefs. And their beef would hit nuclear levels when Ethan dropped his content nuke video on Hassan that past January. The point here is, this ongoing beef is very obviously the catalyst for Ian's video on H3. And given Hassan had been invited to CC2 and Ian had even been on streams with him in the past, it was very clear for those in the loop that this is going to be a shit fest the moment it dropped. In fact, it opens up with a skit featuring Hassan and his entire friend group that have been going at Ethan for months now, very clearly showing everybody watching that Ian supports them over his friend of almost a decade before getting into the nitty-gritty. However, his arguments for why Ethan is a bad person basically dumbed down to, oh, Ethan says mean things online now. Like if someone saying mean things is enough to cancel them online now, then I know I've reached the most cancerous side of internet discourse, because nobody actually cares unless it's to try and get an epic on your enemy to make yourself look better. It's truly entertaining in a strange way seeing how Ian tries to spin it as if Ethan is such a super bad person, such as playing this clip of him getting mad that he and Anissa won't say anything on Twitter to defend him.
It's not me losing the plot, it's Ethan. He's the one who attacked first.
My good friends who I stood by after all these years can't find a spine to speak up.
So go yourself.
I agree.
Notice how Ian left out the context for why Ethan said fuck you to him? Trust me, that'll become relevant in a little bit. He also points out how he and Anissa aren't obligated to say anything just because Ethan wants them to, something that actually makes a lot of good sense here, but trust me, we'll get back into this later on. Now there is a lot of stupid shit that Ian says in the video, such as how because Anissa is half Irish and half Lebanese that she somehow understands the propaganda Israel perpetuates in the East despite being born in Canada way over in the West and living there throughout her childhood. Another part is him trying to label Ethan as an abusive boss because he said mean things to his crew in passing before, but the example he gives is some of the most tame shit I've ever seen.
Right,
the one time the button didn't work and we listened to how he spoke to AB without thinking that the internet was going to hear it.
Yeah,
it was rude,
bad.
It was nasty, and it didn't have this caveat of like, I'm not mad at you. It was anger, and it was uncalled for.
Use they get access to
Yes, it's just use ultimate.
So awkward and terrible.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Just like, this is what I'm talking about when it's always like.
We need to get home for our kids.
It's like, bro.
Oh no, I didn't want to finish it right now. I'm about finishing Wednesday.
On Friday, maybe.
Is it?
You guys, like.
All right, I'm taking my hand up.
Ay.
What? Okay, well.
Heard all that.
Thanks, button.
And he didn't want to take accountability for it. He immediately wanted to deflect, and he wanted to say that the button him.
First of all, I appreciate the hard work.
I know you do.
And I loved it, and I really enjoy it. But it's like every time we do it, it's like the show is what it is, and
I know.
It makes it.
I was being selfish.
No, dude, that button me, dude. Can you imagine that button me over like that?
The button you? AB you? Who you? You yourself. By being an asshole, he makes it seem like he's not a tyrant of a boss.
We're doing it.
What are
Yeah,
you?
Might sucks.
I appreciate the hard work.
I know you do.
And I loved it, and I really enjoy it.
That example we just heard of just a couple slightly heated remarks got iDubbbz to try and twist the narrative that Ethan is a tyrannical boss, when anyone who has worked a real job in their lives knows that this is an extremely tame argument, if you can even call it that. I know that Ian knows this point doesn't mean shit. He just had a part in his script in making the video to somehow make Ethan look like a shitty boss. And if this is the best example he could find, by all means just get a retail job for a month and you can make a whole content cop on the abusive and nasty shit that people say to each other there. It only gets more stupid as Ian will go on to defend the Habibi tier list Twitch panel that passed TwitchCon about who can say the word Habibi or not, with the most important people to note being his friends iDubbbz and Frogan, another political streamer in the Hassan circle.
If you're not Arab or understand Arab culture at all, which is a lot of Americans, and Ethan Klein presents you this tier list and calls it anti-Semitic, you're just gonna eat it up. It's not. Ethan is just proving his location on this tier list under Love Sabra because he doesn't understand Arab culture. There's a lot of Arabs who eat Sabra. There's a lot of people like me who eat Sabra. A lot of the times it's all that's in the store, and I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna eat it, but it is not the good shit. Like, the average Arab American, they're gonna go in the store and the only option they have is Sabra. And that sucks that that's the only option, right? Arab communities and distribution facilities are not widespread across the US. So what are they left with? They're left with a common, relatable, shitty hummus, which is Sabra.
Despite him trying to say the Love Sabra tier is at the bottom because it tastes bad, this is not the case, and Ian is lying to his audience here. Now, Sabra is commonly known as a brand of hummus to most people, but the word also stands for an Israeli-born Jew as well. Given that it says Arab at the top, and when you replace Love Sabra with Jew instead, it's very obvious this Habibi tier list wasn't a list on who could say the word or not. It was a list to rank various content creators with Arab being their favorite and Love Sabra being their least favorite, and whoever they didn't like got the Love Sabra tier, aka the Jew/Jew lover tier.
Man,
now, given how anti-Israel Frogan and iDubbbz are in particular, I don't think they're making edgy jokes about Jews here and are actually being anti-Semitic. It's pretty obvious what's going on here, and the fact Ian thinks his audience is stupid enough to fall for his lies is hilarious to me. The ending of the video is Ian getting all of Ethan's biggest enemies to say something nice about him, but it's very obvious they're just doing it because Ian told them to, and that it's just an optics move by Ian to make it seem as if he was being fair to the guy throughout the runtime. What makes it more obvious this is all optics is that he plays a clip of him crying to his therapist about how tough it is to be an internet figure in a relationship with another internet figure, but people can read between the lines on why this clip was included pretty easily. Overall, the video is very clearly made with an agenda, but unlike the political crowd who have had years of experience being good at spinning narratives, be it false or not in the direction they want, Ian is not good at that, as the arguments he brings up are very easy to break down or read through the lines to a shockingly sad degree. I mentioned earlier that Ian was leaving out context as to why Ethan was crashing out hard on him and Anissa earlier. This wasn't because Ethan decided to attack him out of the blue, unlike how Ian portrays it in his video, as it turns out that just a couple weeks earlier, someone from the Fuck Ethan Klein crowd called Child Protective Services to try and get his kids taken away from him. It turns out that in a February episode of his podcast, he would talk about how his dog got a disease called Giardia and how it's been having diarrhea and how he wonders if his kids might be getting sick now because of it. And iDubbbz ended up reacting to the news on March 1st a few weeks after that, with her chat in specific starting to tell people to call CPS after seeing this. 2 days later, CPS got the call, and on March 7th, that's when they showed up to his doorstep. And so it turns out that all Ethan wanted from Ian and Anissa was to make a tweet saying, hey, our friends Ethan and his wife Hila don't abuse their kids, and whoever called CPS on them are insane. But instead of simply just not wanting to speak about it publicly, Ian would go on to build a false narrative and make it seem as if Ethan was going at them for no reason, and the fact he built this false narrative despite knowing why Ethan was acting out and never once not talked about the CPS situation in his video showed that he was being blatantly malicious with his coverage on what was his friend. In fact, we know that Ian knew about the CPS stuff because at one point in the content cop he mentions Giardia by name, and knowing the whole thing is about Ethan, it's further proof Ian put out a hit piece against the man to further get into bed with the Hassan gang. I do want to point out before we move on that no one actually knows who called CPS and if it was a H3 hater or not, but given that it only happened days after the Denim stream, it's safe to assume it was a hater of his. Now Ethan would respond to the content cop live on air as soon as it dropped, but it's better to go over his video response as it's much more concise and to the point. In said video, Easton reveals that not only did iDubbbz know that CPS was called and he chose to not mention it to spin a narrative, he also reveals that he was sent 2 real human skulls to his home and initially wanted to keep it a secret given the implications behind it. Even if someone wants to spin the argument the CPS call could have been from an actually concerned fan of his, sending human skulls to someone's house anonymously is very clearly a threat. And so with this now revealed to the public, it only made Ian's hit piece look even worse in hindsight. Now for those that might have forgotten, Ian had been promoting Creator Clash 3 before any of this happened, announcing that he not only inserted himself into the most toxic sector of internet discourse at the time, he chose the wrong side to defend. The side that was calling CPS and sending skulls to his opponent's house, and the video was also proven to be manipulative, disingenuous, and downright malicious with his coverage on that man. I still to this...
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for iDubbbz because, like, if you look at his videos now in the comments, like, there's tons of people just ragging on him, you know, like, bullying him. And while it is kind of funny, like, you know, you can't help but feel kind of bad. Especially with, like, the people making feces jokes. You know, because of his, fecal incontinence, whatever. Yeah, but, you know, the more I watch this, the more I realize, yeah, he's kind of an egotistical maniac, you know, like that. This feels like a movie night. Movie night while playing Minecraft, yeah. Yeah, Mojang should have, like, split Minecraft into multiple games. Specifically 2 different games, like... have 1.0 or one of the later versions be the first one, and then like have Minecraftia be you know, everything after, like 1.7.10 that should have been like the Minecraft 2, and they just continued it from there. Wait a minute, I can tame slimes with beetroots. But I want to find like an actual baby slime, not one that's like freshly made into... Yeah. Oh! Epic snail! Dude, that's a cool snail. That's a cool snail, I'm not gonna lie. You're weird, but you're cool as... Ow! Oh, okay, bye-bye. Hi, fishies. Yeah, I like to keep some places unlit. You know, for the thrill of it. Volt! Oh, that's the first time I've seen you in survival. Or, mostly legit survival. Okay, so I'm at the mine shaft. And this is like... It's led from, It is led from my mineshaft house. Oh gosh, there's a cave spider spawner. Gotta get through here quickly. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh wait, let's continue the documentary.
This day, have no idea how someone can make such a straight up retarded move like this, as it completely ruined his image and made him a gigantic business risk from that point onward.
No.
But he chose his bed to lay in, and so now it's time to see how CC3 would end up going down given all the toxic baggage he just now laid upon the event. People take a look at the tickets for CC3 and notice that despite the content cop being very fresh on their minds, seats were not selling, and in fact, it was looking dire given the amount of vacancies there were. In fact, it was going so poorly they would end up downsizing the sales to just the middle ring and below very shortly after, showing its plan to bring more attention to their event, while certainly bringing attention, no doubt, wasn't selling tickets as nobody wants to be part of an event where the main organizers are shown to be complete scumbags. Ticket prices will end up being slashed by various margins as they continue to try and get people to come to the event to no avail. The straw that broke the camel's back, however, wasn't the bad press CC3 was now facing, or the fact they couldn't sell tickets even after getting this newfound attention. It was the fact that during all of this, and seeing that they were failing to sell seats, UFC would announce their big mainstream event on the very same day as CC3 just days after the Content Cop dropped, cementing Creator Clash 3 as a complete failure before it even had a fighting chance. It only gets worse when taking a look at the roster, as it would turn out that one of the fighters in Lena Ayad is an employee of the H3 podcast, and seeing that the main event organizers have this heavy beef with the dude and the side they chose being an extremely volatile and toxic side of the internet, there was legitimate worry now for her safety, as the kinds of people who follow the H3 and Hassan beef tend to be very unhinged, and after seeing they're willing to call CPS and send skulls to people's houses, who knows what they could do in real life. So, with that in mind, it would come to no one's surprise that fighters will start dropping out, with the first being Mr. Epic Mealtime himself in a simple Twitter post on April 28th, and people would figure out the reason why shortly after.
iDubbbz did put up a picture of him holding a sword with what looks to be a swastika on it. I do believe it's a Buddhist symbol.
Like a swastika.
Yeah, but you know the Buddhist symbol?
Yeah, you're gonna this argument with me now?
No, I'm not. I was
This is
I was gonna say, could you imagine wearing a t-shirt with that Buddhist symbol on it?
no, but definitely not.
How would people take that?
Yep, I saved that info just for this very moment. But Ian actually and unironically, after basically turning CC3 into Israel versus Palestine the boxing match, would pick up the swastikana, aka the swasta sword, and pose in a picture of all of Ethan Klein's, a Jewish man's, enemies together and posted it on Twitter on April 17th, making what was already a PR disaster even that much more disastrous in the process. And just to make it clear, it's very much a prop sword from the anime Bleach. But the thing is, Hassan was the one who bought it, and when he did buy it, he said himself that it looked like a swastika.
It immediately goes for the swastika one, got it.
It's pretty obvious that choosing to pose with the swastika sword in specific was a dog whistle by Ian and his crew, given their enemy is a Jewish man, and I just find it funny seeing people try to defend this when a message is pretty obvious here. You don't even have to care, but to deny what's going on here is just funny. Mere days after Harley announced his departure, Ethan would confirm on stream that Lena was now also leaving the event, making that two boxers now without an opponent to face.
It's
also,
deserved.
as her event was imploding in front of her very eyes, Anissa, instead of trying to run some sort of PR online to save it from further destruction, would instead just start to post a bunch of pictures of whatever she was baking that day, very clearly pretending to be oblivious to the fact both her and her husband's online reputations and careers were completely in the gutter now. It's almost pitiful in a way, seeing just how hard of an echo chamber she was trying to make for herself, pretending as if nothing bad was happening. But she's such an unlikable person that feeling goes away almost instantly when remembering what she's truly like. Ethan would make fun of her because he wasn't going to let up on his newfound enemies anytime soon. And if you see there, he mentions that a Jake Paul fight was also announced on the same day as CC3.
My gosh, it's been
that
over
would be
an
true
hour.
as well, meaning that on top of UFC taking their thunder, so was another influencer in Jake Paul, a guy who while only fights washed up people, still sells tickets online because of his name alone. Now in the midst of this Ian and Anissa stuff, Ethan would get into a live stream argument with Hassan about their beef. That's not important to this video, so I won't be going over it, but what I will be going over is Anissa making all these snarky posts online, clearly reacting to what's going on, making it very clear she wants to be involved in this somehow, even as her career and event are in free fall. It's funny that she wants to do all this poking online, yet when they attack back, she tries to play victim, but I digress. On May 3rd, Ian would upload Content Deputy H3 on the channel, a 30-minute dive into the new stuff that's been going on, and I'll just say it now, if you thought that the Content Cop was bad, it only gets worse here. He would then announce that he and Anissa have officially cut ties from the Creator Clash brand entirely, giving their business partners full control of what to do next, as those guys probably figured out very quickly that keeping the two on board would be a disaster given their reputations are now ruined after attaching this newfound negative stigma to the brand.
I don't need wood
Ian then gets into more stuff about Ethan, like how he was saying mean things about him before he even watched the Content Cop and stuff, and notably says that he totally just picked up a random sword in Hassan's room when posing with it in the first place, which personally, I think that's bullshit.
I picked up a random sword in Hassan's room that was laying around. That could be the end of the discussion. You don't actually need to debate Hassan about the sword hilt.
He left it up. Decision making.
If
it was a mistake,
he could have deleted it.
But I'm not going to delete the photo because that would be indulging in your weird anti-Semitic fantasies.
Jeez, for somebody who's recently acquired empathy, he surely doesn't seem to have any at all. Ian then gets into why he didn't mention the CPS call, and his defense for that is just that astounding to listen to.
I wonder why I wouldn't mention the CPS call. Could it be that the CPS call happened the same day that you were shit-talking me, and I didn't have any chance to defend myself? You just immediately, in the same podcast right next to each other, said, CPS call was very traumatic, and then you said, Ian and Anissa. And you link those together, you kind of layered those flavors, and then Anissa and I got a bunch of harassment.
Yes, you guys heard that right. Because Ethan and Gila said mean things about him and Anissa after talking about the CPS call on their stream, Ian decided that instead of telling the story truthfully in his content comp, that he would manipulate the narrative instead. Like, yeah, he doesn't outright say those words verbatim, but you can clearly understand he chose to admit the CPS stuff because he was butthurt that Ethan said mean things about him. For Ian to admit it was all because he got caught up in his feelings is so pathetic you can't help but laugh knowing this is a guy who is known for going after others online. But clearly the past few years have taken a toll on not only his body, but his entire brain as well. Ian spent some time trying to convince people that it could have just been a concerned H3 fan who called CPS, but given that the call happened just days after the Denim stream, it comes off more like Ian just trying to take whatever angle he can to defend his friend. Now one thing I actually agree with Ian on is that Ethan is way too open about his personal life online, as after all, none of this CPS stuff would have happened were it not for the fact he was talking about how his kids might get sick because his dog had Giardia and was pooping everywhere. It's not one of those, oh well he's asking for it type of situations, but let's be real here. Talking about your kids possibly getting sick from your dog shitting everywhere is bound to get the attention of bad people, and given how toxic of an environment Ethan is a part of in this whole streamer political discourse of Israel versus Palestine, it became ammo to use against the guy. It still doesn't take away from Ian being manipulative with his coverage on the dude, but at least he's shown he's able to make some points still, even if they're easy ones. The rest of the video is mainly just going jab for jab with insults going his way, but the most interesting thing to me is Ian saying how he was mad that Ethan was trying to drag him into his mess after the CPS call.
You might think that all of the harassment you're getting has everything to do with your politics and your idea of Israel-Palestine, but a lot of my gripes were centered around you dragging me into your shit. You know, you knew that you were going through a lot, and you were saying, I'm hurting, I'm now going to make them hurt because they're not putting their head on the chopping block. You're a piece of shit.
That is true, as Ethan got mad that Ian and Anissa didn't say anything publicly to defend him even though he asked and wanted them to, but that doesn't give Ian the right to paint Ethan in a false light like he does throughout the video, something that Ian doesn't seem to understand. It's moments like these that I realize that even if Ian is on the right track about something, his past actions make the points he's making ring hollow, as if he just focused on how Ethan was trying to drag him and Anissa into his mess and told the story truthfully, the reception of the content cop would have likely been much better. Ian instead decided to get all his enemies involved, enemies who just so happen to be his own friends as well, the side of the internet that majority of people rightfully assume called CPS on his kids, and a story that he left out of his initial coverage for what we now know was simply because he got caught up in his feelings. In an ironic sense, despite getting upset that Ethan was trying to drag him and Anissa into his mess, he entered it himself and going after the dude anyways, and in the process this caused him to not only tarnish Creator Clash and the brand entirely, it also caused him to have to give it away to his business partners and ruin what little was left of his online career in the process. Ethan would continue to talk shit because that's the one thing he mainly does online, and Anissa, with the info of her and Ian now having nothing to do with Creator Clash anymore just being made public, would start to play the, oh you're just a bully, we don't have anything to do with Creator Clash now, and what is a prime example of grasping at straws to somehow victimize herself. One of the fighters, Freddie Wong, would make a long post in his Discord server about the lack of communication despite Ian saying they've been communicating with the fighters, and while it's a really long one, there's one part in particular that I find interesting where Freddie points out what the future plan for how the fighters are to promote the event online now, given that Ian dragged the H3 and Hassan beef onto the brand and the toxic baggage it contains, showing that more than just Lena and Harley were worried about the social and personal impact sticking with the event could lead to. Ian would also go into a Hassan stream in early May, and while it's pretty boring to be honest, there was a point where Hassan was going through his channel and you could see that he's not even subscribed to him, with the implications behind that just being really funny when you think about it. Someone will leak some clips from the bog in which they say they don't regret ruining their careers and kinda implies Creator Clash wants nothing to do with them, as Anissa said she was getting a lot of vague replies now.
We don't regret it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I just want to make that very clear. Like, this stepping away from the company is not because we regret what we've done. We needed to do what we did. I'm very proud of what you've done.
Okay, this isn't the exact same place I found before.
We did genuinely step away. Like, I think there's people that are like, it's a lie. No, we did. We have no control over anything anymore, to the point where I'm like texting people like, what the f is going on? And they're like, you gotta trust us. Like, that's like the level of interaction I'm getting now, so.
Ian would also go into a stream with another Hassan orbiter named Noah Sampson, in which he says that he finds Ethan getting real skulls sent to his house funny.
I thought the skulls thing was kind of humorous to hear that.
Yikes.
Especially when I heard that they were like from skulls.com or some shit like that. That made it funny.
You know, that's not very empathetic of you, Ian. It sounds like someone needs some more empathy to acquire here. In early May, people start to notice their tickets getting refunded by the seller and that the event was postponed. And then soon after, one of the fighters would confirm that it was indeed true, meaning that Creator Clash was now up in the air, all thanks to Ian and Anissa. Now, during the midst of Harley backing out, the other headliner, LA Beast, the Crystal Pepsi guy, will make tweets hyping things up and how he's staying in the event and clearly trying to promote it in the best way he possibly could by asking people to comment on who should replace Harley in such a short time frame. However, in late May, he would announce that he'd be stepping down from the event entirely, meaning that the main two headliners are now gone thanks to Ian and Anissa's incompetence. LA Beast would voice his reasons as to why in a calm manner, saying how it feels the fighters got dragged into crazy internet drama because of what happened, but most notably tell somebody part of the reason he left was because he was scared of the irreversible damage being associated with the event could lead to his brand, showing just how badly Ian and Anissa tarnished Creator Clash's reputation by joining the ongoing H3 versus Hassan beef. Anissa will start to concern troll Ethan, which is basically when somebody says something about you pretending to care but they clearly don't and are just trying to take a jab at you. But people can see through this pretty easily given how bad she is at hiding her intentions online. The Creator Clash Twitter account would give a brand new timeline and location, with it now taking place on October 25th in Los Angeles. It would also drop a new website page going over their plan for moving forward and other updates. One of those includes Freddie Wong dropping out, which isn't really shocking to be honest, but the most interesting part is when they reveal that Ian and Anissa were initially set to take 34% of the profits from the entire event. Now just to point out, this year the event was changed where the donation and profit pools were entirely separate so that if CC3 were to make no profit, donations to charities could still be made. It's just funny to see this being revealed because it implies they expected to make any profits period with how poorly the promotion and sales were going even before inserting themselves into the H3 and Hassan beef. Ian would actually clarify this in a Reddit post, and as much as the dude is a complete unlikable snake by this point, there's no issue here in keeping things separate, and if anything, it was yet another communication issue on his and Anissa's end, but a lack of communication has become all too common at this point, so it is what it is. There was this one small back and forth Ian had with YouTuber Donut Operator, in which he tells a story about how Ian got mad at him for making a satirical OnlyFans account because he thought he was trying to make fun of Anissa.
And COVID rolls around, I get bored at home, so I make an OnlyFans where I'm showing my meat.
Really?
And, well, basically, I'm taking a steak and I'm rating a steak. And like, I thought it was funny. So I'd be wearing like just an apron. Of course, I'm wearing like boxers underneath. And I'd reach down and be like, "This is my OnlyFans," and this is an A5 Wagyu from down the street. And I would talk about it. And I sent it to Ian, and he got mad and called me and like said I was making fun of Anissa, and like I wasn't. I just thought it was a funny bit because I was sitting at home during COVID. And,
you'll never understand what it's like to be an ally.
Yeah, it was. He like said
that.
stuff like that, and yeah, just like haven't talked to him since. That was like 5 years ago.
Over that?
Yeah, and I've like texted him and tried to reconnect with him. He just won't talk to me anymore.
Yeah,
I know this is some insanely weak and petty shit to end a friendship over, but it gets even more petty as Ian would then try to clap back at him by saying how he did this because he was afraid of getting criticized for his girlfriend starting a serious one. But as you can tell, him being afraid of getting criticized makes no sense because if he was afraid of that, he wouldn't have started the satirical page in the first place, as the stigma of the site alone would have kept him away to begin with. This was clearly another certified CTE moment from Ian, and so of course Anissa would try to insert herself into the situation and talk about how because there was a negligent discharge by a kid at a gun show, she and Ian went to a donut operator that he's somehow a bad person despite not being the dude who gave the kid the gun to begin with, and it not even being his own kid and having literally nothing to do with any of that at all. It also turns out it wasn't a gun show, it was a gun range. So yeah, Anissa was just being extra stupid again, trying to get an epic own for somebody daring to say mean things about her husband online. On June 3rd, iDubbbz uploaded a video about concerned trolling and rant on about how people are concerned trolling him by pretending to care about his mental well-being when in fact they just want to dunk on him. The thing is, his content cop on Ethan Klein had the same exact stuff going on, such as this moment where at the end he says how people should acknowledge that Ethan is just a human and goes on to play those clips of his enemies pretending to be nice to him. There's various other examples throughout, but it's just funny seeing the guy who concern trolled first is now ranting about getting concern trolled back, showing an extremely blatant lack of self-awareness. The comments are also full of concern trolling as well, which is hilarious to see, and it was all but certain now that even those who stuck around were now turning against the guy after all the shit he's gotten himself into. Now during this iDubbbz career implosion arc, Ethan Klein was still on his and Anissa's necks, as he's the kind of guy to never let something go and will continue on and on until he feels satisfied. So it comes to no surprise that he would continue to put Anissa on blast and show her concern trolling him as he's continued to get his licks in on the duo. However, on June 2nd, a day before that concern trolling video was actually posted, he would hint he got some exclusive info on Ian and Anissa that would do more than just ruffle some feathers. And the next day would continue to hype it up as people waited to see what was in store. On June 4th, people get notified of a brand new live stream, in which it hints that Ian's very own boxing coach from the first 2 creator clashes was phoning in on a show, and when it went live. When I say that it is some of the most insane shit I've heard about him and Anissa, I truly mean it, as it is chock full of a bunch of information that sheds light on what they're truly like behind the scenes. The live stream starts off, and it starts off with a bang, as Ethan explains that the coach is set to join the stage and tell everyone how Ian is like. But before that even happens, he would leak a DM Ian sent just minutes after the thumbnail was made public of him panic texting the former coach to not go on the stream as he knew it spelt doom for his future. This would be to no avail, as Coach Mike and his wife Kate, who also worked with Ian and Anissa as a videographer, would join the show around 15 minutes in, and in turn would expose the two like no one had ever done before for the rest of the runtime. Now, given just how much information is going on, if you want the full experience, I'd recommend watching the stream yourself, as I like to keep the flow of my videos at a good pace. That doesn't mean I ain't gonna go over the good details though, such as how they revealed that after paying for Hassan and all those other content creators' hotels and flights for Creator Clash 2, that they didn't invite Ian's dad, not because Ian doesn't like him, but because they said they didn't have enough money.
They rented out the whole hotel for 300 creators, and when we asked them if Ian's dad was gonna be there, because he was there for the first event, they said they couldn't afford to fly Ian's dad in. It was too expensive.
Now, I know Ian doesn't have the best relationship with his dad, but the fact he couldn't be honest about that detail with him is just weird. And it only gets weirder as despite being the videographer for a documentary that never came out and his boxing coach, you know, teaching him to box, Mike and Kate weren't even invited to the gala and only found out because friends of Ian's mentioned it in passing.
So we actually didn't even know about the gala until about probably maybe less than a week before the event, or a week before the event. The only reason I knew about the gala was because Ian had invited some of his training partners, and they were on the email list, and so they kept telling me there was going to be a gala. And I assumed they were talking about the pre-party, because the first year they did do the pre-party, but it was much smaller. It was on a way smaller scale than the second year. Oh, I was just going to say, when we asked them about it, and I said, hey, is there a gala? And they said, oh, you guys, don't even worry about it. You don't have to go to that. And I said, what? This is what Anissa said. And I said, what? And I said, well, some of the sparring partners got invited. And she said, I don't know how they got on that list. They weren't supposed to be on the list. And in my mind, I'm like, Ian had invited them. He sent them the email personally.
What
right?
a disgusting human being she seems to be. I'm sorry.
Oh, she didn't want any of us there. She only wanted like creators there, or people that would, I guess, make her feel like she could get more clout. So she told us we didn't have to come to the event. She doesn't know why we would want to be at the event. And I said, what's the event for? Yeah. And she said, and it's an award show. And I said, what are the awards for? And she said, they're awards for the boxing. And I said, why wouldn't his coach want to be there? Why wouldn't his team want to be there? I was like, that makes no sense. So everybody else, all the other coaches I talked to, I said, hey, did you guys know about the gala? They said, yeah. I said, did you bring a suit for it? And all of them had freaking like 3-piece suits with like kerchiefs and everything. I had sweatpants.
They straight up just pushed the coach and his wife out of the way because he wasn't clouded enough to be at their event in their eyes. And the fact other coaches knew about the gala and not them is just even more infuriating to learn about as well, as this shows they clearly didn't give a fuck about him. Trust me, even though it's already obvious they didn't care about Mike and Kate at all, Mike and Kate never knew because it was never made clear to him, and so Mike would start to talk about this one time where Ian said that he gave off toxic masculine traits when speaking about him online. For those that don't know where this is from, this comes from the Anthony Padilla interview he had in March 2023 during the arc where he was saying how his fans suck and how he acquired empathy and such, and tries to make it seem like Coach Mike was some bad person to the new audience he was trying to cater to.
There's just like a lot of things that I've had to learn along the way. Like my coach is a tough-ass guy. You know, he's got a little of the toxic male qualities, and it's made it hard sometimes because, you know, the way he talks to me sometimes, I could be a little bit sensitive to it. So that's like led to a couple times where I've just been like kind of broke down. If you have like a bad sparring session, it's like that alone feels bad. But if you get your shit kicked in and your coach is like exuding their disappointment to you the whole time while it's happening, it's like, I just kind of suck. He's gotten a lot better at it, and it's really not his fault. Like, that's
Mike would then tell a story about how he was almost fired, in which we can figure out pretty easily what this toxic masculinity Ian was referring to.
Alex comes out and just starts hitting him with haymakers. And the first 2 rounds, I was talking to him very softly. I was like, Ian, are you okay? Can you throw punches? If you can't throw punches, I'm going to scrap this sparring because you're not throwing any punches. And then he's like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then 2 rounds later, then I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? And then he went on the Smosh show and he was like, yeah, it's bad enough when you get beat up and your coach is yelling at you too.
Shut up, dude.
I swear.
Did you say, and I'm going to, did you say he cried?
Oh, we had to have a meeting.
Yeah, so after that, so he was crying at the gym afterwards, and I said, and once again, I hate to hate on him for that because it's very emotional.
Yeah,
when
for sure.
in some hard sparring, right?
Yeah.
So but then what happened afterwards was horrible because then we went back to the hotel and then they were eating at Denny's and they said we need to have a meeting. So I have to go to Denny's, and they pretty much then talked about how they were going to have to fire me because I reminded Ian of his father when his father would yell at him as a kid. And so I had to relearn how to talk to him. And at the time I didn't even mind because I'm like, as a coach, I need to learn how to talk to different fighters anyways. Like communication's the most important thing. One of the most important things as a coach. So I was trying to turn it into a positive, but it definitely was. But he almost got fired at Denny.
Yeah, exactly. After that sparring session.
Yes, you guys heard that right. Ian, the guy who is learning how to box and will therefore be subjected to an environment where you are being pushed to your limits by your coach and what your body can handle, said that he had toxic masculine traits because getting yelled at reminded him of how his dad used to yell at him so much it made him cry. If you are going to be in a boxing event, you will run into and have to deal with what the soft side of the internet calls toxic masculinity eventually, but the fact it stems from his personal childhood trauma and not even the coach being an actual asshole to him is just astounding to listen to. Now there's some other stuff too, like saying how Ian doesn't shower and smells so bad that Coach Mike would drag him to the corner of the gym so people can't smell him, or how he has tonsil stones in his throat because he doesn't brush his teeth. But they also say some crazy shit about Anissa too, such as how she basically controls Ian by doing things like telling him when he's hungry and how he feels about things. They even mention how she tends to get in the way of his training, such as how when she got her boobs taken out, Ian didn't train for a whole month, or how she forced him to buy a new house and so he couldn't train for a period of time because of that. She basically has him wrapped around her finger and they can see it pretty easily, and Kate in particular very clearly doesn't like Anissa, as they were going to tell this story about her time using the ox at the gym one day.
So
what song was it?
Oh man, I would have to look it back up because I was actually in shock because some of the songs, even if you like that kind of music, because it was maybe some like indie punk rock music.
It was dark.
But what was just weird, and so not gym music at all. So I was just like, hey, I was trying to tell her that. Because one of the other coaches was like, hey, I'm going to change it now because she was playing the music
after
at the
1
gym.
hour.
But she shouldn't have even been on the aux in the first place. Like, you shouldn't be at somebody else's gym and then hop on their speaker. That's crazy to me. So she hopped on the speaker, and then one of the coaches was like, hey, I'm going to take you off now. And
man, this documentary is
she was
long.
like, oh, like offended by it. And then I made the mistake of being like, well, that wasn't really gym music. And she was like, he doesn't play gym music. And then I said, what was kind of emo. She said the other guy plays emo music. And then after that, I said, well, it was kind of like 12-year-old girl emo music.
Ooh.
And then
red jumpsuit apparatus.
So I did go I probably went too far.
That's not mean. I like 12-year-old girl music sometimes.
I mean, in the right moment.
In the right moment, sure, yeah.
It's not fair to all the other gym members that they have to listen to her music.
Oh, she ended up, we were supposed to actually do her pad session, but then she left. And she had to go out to her car. I mean, I don't want to talk about how her feelings, but anyway, so she was super offended. So then the next day, what had happened was the next day they came in and they told my wife that they don't know how she could date me because I don't respect women.
Yes, you guys heard that right. Anissa got kicked off the aux and a coach called her music bad, so she went to cry in the car about it, and the next day had the gall to make a snarky comment about him not respecting women and how Kate could ever date a man like that. It's very clear that Ian and Anissa don't live in reality here, and it's funny thinking she really thought that comment was something normal to say at all because he didn't like her music taste. Mike and Kate will go on to talk about how they noticed that Ian was clearly being isolated by Anissa, but they also say they noticed they didn't have any real friends either, so they tried to get close to them, such as bringing them over to their place for Thanksgiving one year and inviting them to watch a boxing match, but seeing how they treated them in hindsight, realized that they didn't care about them unless they had some sort of internet clout to offer, especially Anissa in particular. They talk more about Anissa, such as how she was offended for not having a chair at a podcast only Ian was invited to, as if she was entitled to something Ian worked for, and also mentioned they noticed she likes to see people she's into being in the action in the ring during sparring sessions.
And like,
so what happened? How did he piss off Anissa?
So he owns properties. No, I'm just well, that was kind of it. But when they did his show, because we went to Vegas to promote the event, and when he went to do his podcast, he didn't have a chair for her. So she was super offended by that. She was so pissed. She definitely had a big crush on one of the guys that would come in and spar with them. Because anytime they would spar, she would just be super into it and watch every moment. And then, even if he would like beat Ian up, she'd be very into it. And then,
I want to say that, I want to say that before. So Anissa never gave shout-outs to Michael training Ian at all. But she put out the first video of Ian like getting rocked in sparring when Ian was sparring with her crush. Yeah.
It's some truly bizarre stuff, but it actually makes a lot of sense knowing the way she's like. It's just strange hearing it because of how childish it almost sounds. It's honestly kind of sad at points because you can see Mike really trying to just be honest about his time with Ian, as there are parts where he talks about how Ian was fairly normal whenever Anissa wasn't around, and that he can see he's very much being controlled by her. But there's one last thing about the duo that I want to talk about to show y'all just how messed up they are. Kate would start to talk about how she was a child bride in America when she was just 12 years old and how she was forced into having 2 kids. And when talking about this, would mention she asked Ian and Anissa to retweet a bill in Washington state to end it permanently, only for them to not even reply to her at all.
And Ian and Anissa are well aware of my story because I've had them at my home. They've seen my kids and everything. And so last year, 2024, I learned that there was a House bill in Washington State trying to pass House Bill 1455 to end child marriage. And so when I learned of this bill, I thought to myself, even though it had been 15 years since I escaped my prison, like this is a chance for me to come forward and tell my story. I sent, so Michael and I went to Olympia in Washington. We met with politicians. We lobbied to support the bill. I gave my public testimony to support the bill, and I was on Seattle Times and television and everything. And I reached out to Ian and Anissa, and I asked them if they could help, share the information because it was really important to me that this bill pass. And they just both left me on red. But guess what? Today, when they saw the highlights on Ian's story that we were going to be on here, Anissa was texting me and Michael, and they were like,
they ignored us when we were like trying to fight child marriage. But then when they found out,
are they pro-child marriage? It makes one. Begs the question.
It's not even that they didn't retweet it. No one is obligated to talk about something they don't want to talk about publicly. It's the fact they left them on red until they saw the H3 podcast thumbnail and knew they were going on the stream. The 2 people who trained and recorded footage for years of the 2 of them, the 2 people who invited what they saw was a very flawed couple with no friends to their house to try and kindle something together, and the 2 people who were shafted once Creator Clash 2 came and went were all just pawns for Ian and Anissa at the end of the day, with them not caring about them not one bit throughout their entire relationship together. After listening to the entire interview, it's very obvious that Ian, despite going on this arc about how he's acquired empathy and changed for the better, didn't actually change at all. He just said he changed because he wanted to cater to this new internet crowd, a crowd that for many years he had not any relations with until Anissa started to become more and more prevalent in his life. On top of that, he decided to burn a bridge with his old audience by calling them bad people directly, and seeing just how much control Anissa has over him, it's very obvious why this happened. Anissa wanted to become a huge streamer and internet influencer, and so she would hang around the Denims and Casey Trons and that whole crowd, but even after this rebrand from League into the political scene, never once had the pull to get an audience herself, as people saw through her facade pretty easily. So she got with Ian, a huge YouTuber who had a lot of money and connections to offer, in which after years of him hanging out with the people she liked did he start to change his entire persona, changes that were likely made by Ian to appeal to her and her only, as he was blinded by love given she was his first girlfriend. It's why he switched up on his audience and pretended to change as a person. And now seeing he's just as sour of a man, if not more, before his infamous video 2 years ago, while it's not shocking he's a piece of shit through and through, it's just sad seeing he threw it all away to give into a girlfriend that very clearly wouldn't have bothered with him were it not for the fact he had power, money, and influence to get her where she wanted to be in life. Mike and Kay even hint at her true intentions after they had a car ride together, and listening to it after piecing together all this info is almost harrowing in a way.
She even told us, she used to always tell her mom, I'm going to be with a millionaire. And so we think that once she kind of got
tell her mom that she would be with a millionaire? How do you know
Her
that?
mom told her that it had to be someone
Dude,
rich.
Anissa
How did you know
is
that?
poor.
Well, she told us.
She is a
It was.
parasite.
I remember exactly. It was when we were in
And
Vegas
iDubbbz
going
just
to the other
letting
podcast,
her
and we were inside the Uber, and we were with me
latch
and
on to
Anissa.
him.
And Anissa said that like her mom
Drain
only had two
all of his
expectations
dignity, huh?
for her to marry someone that was rich and also to be of her religion, right? And so she said that Anissa goes, well, I mean, I didn't get someone that was of my religion, but at least I got one part of it right. He's rich. And then she like laughed about it, and then he was in the car, and you could tell he was bothered by it.
I was bothered.
Who wouldn't be bothered by that?
Anissa truly is an awful person through and through. And while it's sad Ian became what he is today, it's all his own fault as he made the choices in life that led him down to this path, and now he has to lay in the bed that he so chose to sleep in. This would mark the official end of any mainstream internet career that iDubbbz had remaining. Sure, he and Anissa would fuck off to Edmonton, Canada soon afterwards, and Anissa would play ignorant on social media about just how badly they ruined their lives, but everybody knew there was no coming back from this. The past decade plus of hard work was now all in the gutter because Ian decided to try and cater to a brand new crowd of people to please his wife and her friends, and now he and Anissa were living in a relative's basement together trying to sell their house in Seattle so they could get their own place, likely because their money is starting to slowly dry up. It still wasn't over for them, however, as during the whole H3 beef, Airsoft Fatty would come out with a video in April revealing that Ian not only didn't give him any money for the Full Force documentary, he didn't even pay him to sing the national anthem as CC1, and also recently blocked him online for seemingly no reason.
No
I ain't
way.
gonna fret too much about not paying for the documentary because a lot of documentaries tend to go unpaid like that. But come on, bro. He could have given Fatty a couple thousand for singing on stage like that. Especially knowing his monetary status in the world ain't exactly the highest as he saw so for himself in making a documentary. Creator Clash 3 would also end up having to cancel the event altogether on June 7th due to the brand's name being completely tarnished, meaning that all those fighters' weeks of hard work in the gym were wasted, all thanks to Ian and Anissa's stupidity. There's been some extra fallout over the cancellation involving the fighters, such as Dad and others not getting proper payment and such. But that's to be expected given how Ian and Anissa are like, and while at this point it's basically going over more of the same and would drag things out too much here in my opinion, it's just a never-ending cascade of failure that seems to surround these two now. Speaking of failure, Ian's newest venture into making money online after eventually getting his own place has been continuing to live stream, but I've already said how boring it is, especially when coming from the former content cop guy who was very witty and funny only to end up as this jaded, washed up wannabe very clearly on the ropes and saving his internet career.
Give me the
Clearly his name isn't enough to bring in the views and money anymore as he's been seen eating beans for dinner despite Anissa always showing off her cooking online. I mean, the dude has literally been seen blinking with one eye only, which ain't exactly helping him beat the CTE allegations whatsoever. And it's just so sad to see because this is iDubbbz, one of the most untouchable internet influencers ever, now relegated to just another stupid wannabe political drama streamer. Ian and Anissa would eventually spruce up their new place and continue to blog post on their Patreon with a brand new episode, but it's just boring nothingness, so I ain't even gonna pretend to give a shit about it and explain what goes down. He would, however, make the time to upload a video on August 4th titled, "Are You Scared of Immigrants?" and going to talk about the immigration issue in Europe and why it's not a big deal, just a bunch of right-wing chuds being racist. I know that brief summary I just gave sounds very hyperbolic, but that's literally the video. It's just 20 minutes of a Californian pretending to be morally superior to those who live in Europe and lecturing them about their own countries despite never stepping foot in them in his entire life.
He's also doing this disgusting AI content where it says Indian jumps into dirty water.
Some of the Indian stereotypes really are true.
Oh God! Oh, I hate
AI,
bagpipes.
guys. Chill. And then you read the description and it says, "I love Indians, some of the friendliest, funniest, warmest people I met on my travels." Then you go to the comments and he likes the comments saying it's not AI. It is so cowardly, right? Because it is one, not acknowledging that there is already so much racism towards Indians on the internet and in the country that you're coming from. It is perpetuating so many negative, awful stereotypes. And then you're using AI to fabricate something
I'm glad it didn't respawn.
Didn't f***ing happen.
The video is bare bones, politically progressive, bottom-tier slop content that does nothing but represent a man trying to pivot his entire online identity in a new direction. And while there are many comments completely trashing the dude throughout, I feel this one on screen represents their opinions the best here. As people were taking pictures of their open house in Seattle that they were trying to sell, Anissa would relaunch her OnlyFans after the need for money was getting dire and they had to get something rolling soon, calling herself a succubus as many people online already used the nickname to make fun of her as a way to try and play it on a joke. Ian would even do so the same himself, but given how cucked he is, it's hard to tell if this was just rage bait or he actually thought he was technically owning the chuds, but I digress. When replying to someone on Reddit asking why he never did OnlyFans himself, he'd actually say he's not opposed to it if he was in shape, so maybe one day we'll get the Ian cock on our time. Who knows at this point? Of course, that means they both be supporting a company that gave $11 million to the Israelis, just like Anissa is currently doing now, showing that she's clearly not the type to practice what she preaches, that which isn't really shocking at all, to be honest. The next day, Anissa will get mad at her haters on Twitter and call them racist losers because buzzwords equal super epic own and how nobody likes them, basically just projecting that last part because she was mad people are still making fun of her. In this small little tangent going on, transgender Minneapolis school shooter Robert Westman will post a video showing off his various schizo ramblings written on his weapons, including Ian's old iDubbbz nickname in a weirdly not shocking showcase. I want to point this out now, but no, Ian and Anissa have nothing to do with this shooting just like everybody else written on the weapons. Robert was just a very mentally ill person who wrote many irony-poisoned things before carrying out his heinous act and is currently rotting in hell for killing kids because he hated his life and did what he did.
True.
Anissa straight up skipped episode 61 of The Bog, which was pretty funny to see, but it doesn't matter as Ian would bring her back into our graces with his video Coming Clean, uploaded on September 9th, 2025. The video is basically just 20 minutes of complaining that people making fun of him are weird, including platforming the biggest live stream that milks content out of him in Kino Casino because that's super smart to do.
Yeah,
he even starts to take shots at his former coach and his wife for airing out all the dirt they had on him and is very clearly more upset at them than the others, making it clear they bothered him the most.
It's not
this
that
stupid
bad.
Loser and his dumb as rocks wife decided to go on the H3 podcast. They already spilled their guts. They were getting paid like $5,000 to go on this podcast.
It's not like
I'm going to be sending you guys $5,000 for the bonus that you never got.
I think they were maybe afraid that they wouldn't get the money if they didn't thoroughly trash us.
Okay, so
was there a bonus or was there not a bonus?
There was never a bonus. I never spoke to these losers about a bonus. This fucking loser with the beard got paid $32,000 for training an influencer to box.
How is it that we put on this great event? We raised $1.3 million for charity, and he promised us a bonus. And then right after the event, he just kind of pretended like he was too busy to check in with us.
Oh, hi, Bubs. Hi there.
I'm not. You're not my parents. But like, what the f
I
are
don't
you talking
think you're
about?
still
You
here,
weren't
but
promised a bonus. I was doing my own shit. Why the f would I want to spend my time with
isn't
you
here, isn't
when I'm filming
It's
a show
not
with
here.
Dax Flame? You guys are losers. Like these crooked people. They came on this podcast. They used this bonus thing as some sort of like weird exchange of like, yeah, we can't go on the podcast and just talk blatant shit about
Nefray
our
isn't here,
our
but I can at
clients.
least summon
So
the
what we're
warden
instead going to do
and
is
name it
pretend like we
Minnesota
were stiffed
and do,
by our
you know,
clients
what
after
the-
they
what the stream
promised
actually
us
says.
a windfall of cash.
Ian even starts to go on about how it's mean that people are making fun of Anissa and the fact that her father has Alzheimer's, but fails to accept that trolls on the internet will use whatever they can to get under your skin for their own kicks. Like, Ian understands this is a thing. He knows how the internet works,
Hi, Rat.
but he tries to preach morals about how this is wrong and mean and such, but it's impossible to preach that kind of rhetoric when he himself was doing the same trolly stuff to people back in the day only to not be able to handle the heat himself years later. He just comes off as a hypocrite or a bitch depending on how somebody wants to frame it. And it's honestly sad to see this lack of self-awareness and not only to not give attention to his trolls, but also to just not talk about this stuff, period.
Maybe
He
we
also
won't get
says he
Neff
took
right,
Anissa's
but
last name when
we'll
they
at
got
least get
married because it was
Minnesota.
cooler to him, which I'm just gonna call bullshit because I believe he's just too afraid
my
to admit
gosh.
he did so
Oh,
because his
gosh.
family life sucked. Ironically enough, showing that he's aware and able on how not to give trolls the ammo they want, yet this entire video is falling for it hook, line, and sinker, which is just utterly perplexing to witness. Ian will go into a live stream later that same day and trash on Coach Mike and Kate some more, including saying how he didn't support Kate's bill against child marriage because Mike asked him to be a guarantor, and also that he didn't sign it because he was angry over CC2 failing and his reputation taking all the way down to hell.
He messaged me about this child marriage thing, and this was after Creator Clash 2, and it was very importantly right after Michael Briggs requested that I
wow, you're all the way over there.
be his guarantor on a loan to open like a boxing. And I don't know if you guys know what that means. That basically means he's asking me to be responsible for like debt if he isn't able to like pay the loan. Now this, I want you to keep in mind. He said how embarrassing, humiliating it was that I was doing this like live stream to make up for the fact that we lost
the name tag worked
on this event and money didn't go to charity.
I'm surprised he didn't.
He was aware of what was happening. He knew that I lost my fucking match. You know, I hadn't been making videos or making any money, and that, you know, obviously I've been having a hard time online. I made my apology. Things were rough for me.
Oh man, that was such a risky operation.
He comes in with his request of, hey, you mind being my guarantor on this loan? Meanwhile, he has no problem, he has no problem messaging me that. But I guess he couldn't message, hey, I could use that $5,000 bonus that you promised me.
That wording
she, by the way, was very
Minnesota.
deliberate in saying that I promised her that. Like,
I'm
that is like
satisfied
very
with this
specific
operation.
language that she's using. That didn't happen. So I was extremely offended when he messaged me requesting that I be his guarantor on a loan. I did not have any, like, the idea of supporting him in that way was like not like it was just offensive. It's like, oh, you literally aren't even acknowledging that I lost a tremendous amount of money on this event. I didn't say that, but I was short with him. I said, like, in no world would I ever be able to do that, because I wanted to express like very clear boundaries.
Aww.
And I did.
Cute
And
axolotl.
I don't know how long later it was. I wasn't done being angry about it for sure. But Kate did message me about like a child marriage bill thing. And I didn't pass it along to Anissa. I looked at it and I closed it. So was I being like, you know, negligent to that relationship? Sure. But no, Anissa and I don't support child marriage or whatever crazy story that they're spinning. I was just angry at them, and I was like, you know, you guys, I'm not going to be boxing anytime soon, and yeah, I'm done with this shit.
I went through the whole stream and it was a slog of nothingness, so it's not worth getting into anymore in my opinion. But thankfully Anissa would spice things up in the chat, as she was going to accuse Coach Mike of sexually assaulting her to try and poison the well against him in whatever way she could think of. Like, she tries really hard to lie and twist this false narrative into people's heads reading the chat, and it's absolutely sick to witness, as this is life-ruining shit, especially for a coach who works with people in the real world and not this online drama sector. And it's obvious she's only doing this because they aired out their grievances on a live stream of their biggest enemy. After bringing up Kate and Mike again, Kate will post a screenshot of her messaging Ian about the child marriage bill and point out that she sent the text in January 2024 and not in the aftermath of CC2 failing, either meaning that Ian was lying about the time frame, or CC2 being a failure was bothering him very much, even almost a full year after it went down. Anissa would also have another crash out and start to talk shit about Kate and invoke her wrath some more, in which Kate reminds her how she and Ian are a bunch of losers with nobody on their side, and that she has a real job, so none of this matters to her, compared to both their entire lives revolving around stupid internet drama now. Anissa would eventually delete all the posts and make an apology the next day, but the internet never forgets, as the damage had already been done and there was no turning back now. Mike and Kate will come back for round 2 on the H3 podcast on September 15th, 2025, after seeing Ian and Anissa drag their names in the mud. And this time, Mike in specific was not holding back, as he was done seeing them lie about him and his wife online. He talks about how Ian has no basic comprehension skills and how Anissa is a disgusting person, with the both of them very clearly not holding back their disdain for the duo now.
And trying to find coaches for people who didn't have coaches, right?
You were consulting for a lot of people.
Yeah, Ian wants to discredit us. He can do it all he wants. He can cry all he wants. Nobody believes him. He's pathetic. And it's just so sad that he has to continue to defend his marriage and who he is. Like, it's very sad.
It is also very insecure. Yeah.
Oh, and that's what's crazy is he calls me insecure. I'm like, man, I'm fully secure. I just went on your show and told a bunch of facts, and he's like, what, are you gonna cry? No, I'm not gonna cry because you didn't invite me to the fucking gala. It shows how much of a piece of shit you are.
Yeah.
Like, how does he not understand? And then he even admits it. Oh, you should have asked about the gala. Motherfucker, we did ask about the gala as soon as I figured out it was a real thing. I asked you if it was a real thing, because you never fucking told us. All Anissa ever talked about was how much money they have, how rich they are.
I ran out of torches.
Oh my gosh, so she...
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have noticed. She's obsessed with counting my money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's obsessed with you and Ela and H3.
Why did the second? If Froggy Tonic was there to do this stuff for the documentary, how come the documentary for the second one never came out? Why? Because it was a huge failure, dude. So it's like, and it was, and then he's like, what was $160,000 on parties when we lost $250,000? I can do math. That means you only would have had a $90,000 loss, you fucking idiot. If you can't do math, that's what that means. Also, why are you spending $160,000 on parties that aren't going to relate?
Alright, I don't want the axolotl near that fish that we have at home.
Pay-per-view sales.
They are not very bright. They're not. They're terrible business people, and they're very dumb.
I can tell you exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah, that leads back
so she got kicked off the aux. Patty kicked her off the aux. As soon as that happened, I literally turned around because I was like, okay, let's do our pads. I was going to put her gloves on. She runs to the bathroom. And right when I saw her run to the bathroom, I was like, oh, this probably isn't good. She's probably going to be crying. Sure enough, she was crying in the bathroom. She took several minutes to come out. By the time she comes out of the bathroom, she's bawling. She tries to leave to go to the car, and I see her go to the front door, but she realizes she doesn't have the keys to the car. So she has to come back. At this point, she's already crying. She's super sad. Once again, they don't know what the empathy is. I see a woman crying, and I'm going to feel bad. I'm like, oh, shit. I did not mean to make her feel that bad. I thought we were going to just have that conversation, go on to pads, have a normal day. That's why it's so funny. They're like, oh, you're going to cry about it? You crybaby? Bro, you guys are the fucking crybabies. Like, I can move on from shit. They can't. So she's crying about it. I go give her a hug because I'm like, hey, I'm sorry that you're crying. I didn't hug her to the point where she started crying. I felt bad, so I gave her a hug.
Crying.
And I said, yeah, she was bawling. So
that's a crazy, malicious lie. The way she told that story is nuts. She's crying from the aux thing, and then she's making it sound like she's crying because you're like squeezing her and not letting her go.
But literally, because that makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't.
Why would I just be squeezing her? Like, she disgusts me. She's always disgusted me. Her mind is disgusting.
He ran away from
One of the reasons that she told me that people hate on Ian was because she had done a porn with Mia Khalifa and a hijab. So I'm like, oh damn, she did a porn with
hold
Mia
on.
Khalifa.
What does that have to do?
But-
Wait, she oh, okay. Anissa said that she was in the porno with Mia Khalifa.
Yes. This was the first conversation I had with Anissa when I first met her at the gym. Michael told me, hey, the YouTuber's coming in today with his wife. They're training. You know, come and meet them and film, right? And then I go and I meet her and I said to her, hey, you know, we don't really know much about the YouTube world. So are you also a YouTuber or what do you do for work? And then she like literally giggled like, and then she was like, well, you know, I actually had a porn video that went viral. And I was like, oh my God. I just looked around to make sure nobody was around us because why are you talking about this at the gym? And then she's like, yeah, I had a porn video that I did with Mia Khalifa and another Muslim girl, and the three of us had hijabs on, and it was very controversial, and I got lots of death threats. And then after that, I was like terrified for my life, and Ian needed to protect me, and so that's how I became famous. You know, so she made it seem to me that was how she was. That's
such a crazy thing to lie about.
Yeah. She's a liar. She lies all the time, and I think she liked us because we weren't a part of the YouTube world, and she could just lie to us continuously.
And she says we're not going to look it up.
We're not going to look it up. Why am I going to look that up?
Also, I'm not going to look up a fucking porn of my client's wife.
I didn't even know
that's
that
insane.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised Anissa is lying again and that they really hate Ian now, but they brought it upon themselves, so it is what it is at this point. Anissa would respond by posting food pics online as she is totally unbothered by everything going on, guys, for sure. And Kate will post a snippet of the recording she did for her unproduced documentary, showing that despite Ian and Anissa's attempts at epically owning their haters and how they totally don't care about what's going on now, it's not working not one bit as the internet continues to keep up with them so long as they keep poking the bear. Now for a little while after this, things would be in a bit of a boring spot as Ian was doing his streaming to his paltry number of viewers and Anissa posting whatever she wanted online. That's not to say there aren't some interesting clips to look at here, such as Ian, the man who prided himself on his phrase, either all of it is okay or none of it is okay back in his heyday on YouTube in the context of edgy comedy, now takes the none of it is okay angle a decade later as he's completely 180'd his entire ideological identity.
The main line I remember is, it's either all okay or none of it's okay in relation to comedy with taboo topics or slurs or bad words, etc., which is, of course, ultimately an enormous oversimplification of race issues and all that, but certainly convinced me when I was in high school and early college. Yeah, it is compelling. It feels like it, that's why I said it. Like, it definitely felt like it gave me more of a pass. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, the answer is none of it's okay. That is the answer. So
holy crap.
Back then I took the opposite approach, but now I'm on the other end of that statement.
He even says in his Discord that he agrees with Ethan Klein apparently running a smear campaign against him, despite, you know, trying to basically do the same first on the man when dropping his content cop until he clapped back extra hard against him. Now during this streaming era, of course things would pick up again, but this time, it wasn't something that either he or Ethan did to invoke each other's wrath, surprisingly enough. On October 7th, 2025, Hassan Piker would be caught using a shot collar and his dog Kaya in order to keep her in the camera frame in bed because it makes him look better. There's no doubt this is a shot collar, by the way. Anyone who says otherwise is stupid or trying to defend their favorite streamer out of pure delusion. But the point here is that Hassan did something to invoke the wrath of the internet. Now one would think, given that Ian and Anissa didn't like how Ethan Klein was trying to drag him into the CPS call mess going on a few months ago, that they wouldn't dare insert themselves into this mess, right? Well, in a showcase that honestly really isn't too surprising here, Anissa would immediately jump on Twitter within hours after the news dropped as one of the many people trying to lie on Hassan's behalf for whatever the reason may have been, and also replying to an Ethan Klein post in specific to kill two birds with one stone here, showing that she just can't shut the fuck up as she continues to make herself look like an idiot online. Somebody would even make a comment saying how she doesn't even defend Ian as hard as she does Hassan. And you know what? That's actually pretty accurate, as all I see her do is embarrass her husband online most of the time or get him involved in shit he shouldn't be in to begin with. Just like this Hassan dog collar stuff, as Ian, seeing his best friend Hassan Piker was rightfully getting dragged through the mud, will start to comment on the situation on stream just a few days later on October 10th. I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but it's not for no reason, as the stream is just full of pure cope as he tries his hardest to lie and say Hassan would never use a shot collar on his dog, despite this being proven otherwise even before the stream started, despite being the Save the Squirrels guy who totally cares about animals, would continue to justify Hassan using a shot collar on Kaya and even try to say people are just imagining he used a shot collar to further obfuscate from the truth, adding yet another shroud of mystery on what his true beliefs are in animal abuse.
Ethan literally saying, what does me being a bad dog owner have to do with Hassan? Says everything you know about the situation. Yes, exactly. Totally. No. If I'm referencing a shot collar at all, it is the imagined shot collar that you know, everyone trying to shit on Hassan is making up.
There's some more absolutely stupid stuff Ian would say on a stream, such as how him doing his famous "I'm gay" clip was actually meant to empower queer people and softly imply he was pressured by Max into saying something offensive.
Is it controversial to say I'm kind of now a fan of your "I'm gay" clip where you're in the green suit? Of course. I think a lot of... No, there was a ton of gay people, a ton of gay people, and a ton of LGBTQ associated people who thought that was, and I genuinely do agree with it, that it was a positive, nice thing to do and entertaining, you know? That's the good side of iDubbbz, I would say. It's this moment of levity that allows you to... Because I think there was an opportunity for me to jump down from the bench top, and because Max said, jump down, say something gay. And this was like, you know, this is some very like straight man kind of peer pressure. I could have jumped down and said something extremely offensive, but I just said, I'm gay. I think that was probably like, that was like the most, what do you say? That was the most like politically correct thing I think I could have said. You know what I mean? But because it's one of these moments that I think a lot of, because I was so edgy at the time and I did say offensive things, it kind of hijacked the narrative for a lot of people who wanted it to be offensive or edgy, because you could kind of interpret what you wanted. Like, oh, he's doing that in a mocking kind of way. We'll see how it ages. I think it's all right.
I have no fucking idea what he's talking about here. It's very obvious the joke is people expected him to say something gay and funny, except he adds a deadpan twist to it by only just stating, I'm gay, making it even funnier in the process. This attempt at him trying to rewrite history as if this was meant to empower queers when it was actually just a funny, tame joke is absurd to witness. But clearly the dude is cucked beyond measure, so it is what it is at this point. Ian would also go on stream and says he wants to beat up Ethan in the ring after Ethan told his audience he wouldn't talk about Ian anymore, which to be fair, would be pretty entertaining if it were to happen. Ethan would of course clap back and just make fun of the dude some more for being a complete joke and loser now, basically telling him and Anissa to get a job as he continued to laugh at his online demise. A few weeks later, Ian would then dress up as trans Dobby the elf from Harry Potter on Halloween, with him and Anissa doing this to totally epically own J.K. Rowling and all the chuds online in what is the poorest attempt at virtue signaling I've witnessed from this duo in a good while. I mean, dude, I know people have said that this has gotta be a humiliation fetish from Ian, and while I had my doubts at first, as every passing day comes and goes by, I only become more and more convinced this might actually be the case, because I just can't fathom the type of shit he keeps getting himself into with Anissa and all that I've had to witness from the dude while making this video. I don't expect things to get any better for him anytime soon as he continues streaming and trying to grasp onto a dead career that he himself was the sole reason for it dying in the first place, but at least we have ourselves some notable final moments to take a look at as we wrap things up here. You know, I remember back when Ian first said he was changing his ways and discovered empathy and all that, and at the time, I had no issue as well. I hadn't seen a video from the guy in about 2 or 3 years. Someone growing to be a better person is always a good thing. However, when going through all this together here, it became apparent that Ian never actually changed into a better person. He just deluded himself into thinking he was a better person now. The way he does it is actually pretty simple. The main difference now is that he believes he's a better person because his political values are superior to his past beliefs, as well as those he criticizes in his newer content on the channel. It's so strange because when going back to his Kickstarter craps, bad unboxings, and especially Content Cops, the dude was literally one of the funniest guys on the platform at the time. Sure, his humor was brash, abrasive, mean-spirited, and even controversial to certain people, but it was something that was new and fresh to the platform as most comedic videos back in the early to mid-2010s were skits like Smosh. Skits that will still had their fair share of edgy humor, just weren't on the same level with iDubbbz taking things up a notch for his brand. That's not even mentioning just how influential the Content Cop series was in terms of shaping the general YouTube drama scene, as even to this very day people are still using them as an example on how to make well thought out arguments against people online, well except for the Ethan Klein one, but that was made once Ian became washed, so let's just treat it like the red-headed stepchild of the bunch. I mean, the title of Ethan Klein's content nuke on Hassan is literally a reference to the series, just like any other YouTube video that has